Intro hype gets me going every single time, that intro. Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to Octane Online Racing's Duo Series, the very famous Duo Series. Without a doubt, the best series that we run here on Octane Online Racing. It's round 2 from the Nurburgring GP circuit. My name is Jamie Conboy, joined tonight by John Gormley at the moment. Hello to you, sir.
Thank you very much, JC. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm doing great, and it's already raining on track. And much to the detriment, it's AM going first.
Yeah, get stuffed AM class. I wonder if that's going to dry out too. Obviously, it's a 35-minute qualifying session with the AM class drivers going first. And if it does stop raining, then we'll see some quick times coming down from the Pro-Ams and the Pros when they come out at the 20-minute mark and the 30-minute mark. So going to have Gobby in later as well. Gobby and Gormley tonight in the same car, sharing the duties, and going to be switching places in the commentary box as well. And of course, Glenn Germain behind the cameras with all of the best angles of tonight's action. Thanks to Matt Powell, our race director tonight. Let's get out there. Let's get on track.
Yep, thank you, Glenn, for doing our cameraman work and letting me enjoy watching my teammate have a massive, amazing, awesome first stint, hopefully great quali, and having him watch me bin it, hopefully 5 minutes in.
Well, you've just cursed him, so now you're free to go bin it because you've already binned him. He's about to go and put it in the wall straight away, I would suggest, based on that curse.
We'll have to see if that actually works like that. I'm not sure, black magic, but we'll find out. I'm willing to myth bust this for everybody out there.
Yeah, looking forward to tonight, though. We've got a 2-hour race in front of us. Sorry, 3-hour race of these, the Duo Series. So, yeah, plenty of time to talk back, chat some shit. And here is Gobby now. That's a good livery. What's the inspiration behind that one, John?
Well, that was actually the character you see on the car. Her name is Mita, and she's the heroine of a dating simulator / psychological horror game that came out roughly 2 months back.
I see. It's not one of those sexy time type Steam games, is it? What's the premise?
Oh, basically, she's in a mobile phone, you're playing a game with her, yada yada, and then you get pulled in because she's a crazy psycho. She loves you. It's not, plus 18. It's not safe for work. It's just a very thrilling psychological horror.
Yeah, right. Hopefully someone gifts me that one on Steam because I'm not sure I'd go out there and spend money on it. But it sounds good. She looks like a little cutie anyway. And you're in the Mustangs tonight. So yeah, as we said, the AM class drivers out here at the moment, getting the track all to themselves. So it is a wet track at the moment. However, it isn't raining. So this will progress into maybe a damp track, but there is rain coming in 10 minutes. So it is a very interesting session we're looking at here in qualifying. In saying that, it is only 14 degrees and it is 8 o'clock in the morning. So I know it's wet now, but I don't see the track really drying up too much with only 6 or 7 cars on track and that sort of temperature at this time of morning. So even though the rain is coming, I think it's going to be a wet track the whole way through, but it does present a chance here for some AM class drivers to maybe put in a ripping time before the Pro-Ams get out there, because it looks like the Pro-Ams are going to have the worst of the conditions.
I completely agree with you on that, because if the AMs set a better time than Pro-Ams, that's going to shuffle up the grid and make a lot of content, actually, a lot of good racing, hopefully, as my teammate goes wide there from obviously the conditions, and the fact that the Mustang is it's not a bad car, it's one of the best cars, but it is such a pig around these corners on this track.
I haven't done a lot of Nurburgring GP track lately. I've forgotten all about this. The last time I was here was on the Nissan, though, and it's an absolute weapon around here. And so I don't think there's any Nissans. Oh, yeah, Cricky, hello. Looking forward to that. Cricky loves his Nissan. Oh, and he's got the setup that we used for the Nurburgring. When was it? Sprint season, last season? I think it was like 2 or 3 rounds to go. It was wet. And Cricky and I were in the same race there, and we had the same setup, and we shared that one. We were both super duper quick. So the Nissan, I think, is one to keep an eye out there for there. Otherwise, I think the McLaren's pretty good in the wet too. And of course, the Porsches will be enjoying these conditions immensely. But you're saying the Ford not particularly strong in that sector. How's it go in the wet?
It's not that good in the wet either. I mean, if we had a drop round for duos, this would definitely be the drop round for the Mustang, because this is a track that favors more of the mid-engine, more agile cars anyway, and not to mention the conditions, which is perfect for Porsche, perfect for anything with massive TC. I'm surprised. I mean, Hamilton in the Aston, great in the wet, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah, Hamilton's a freak in bloody whatever car he drives. So, yeah, he's obviously a very quick boy. Where is he? He's not in the M class, obviously. We're going to have a check him out later.
Fastest lap for AM, Igor Zavaka, outdoing my teammate just because, well, Igor is a massive driver as well. He's got consistent pace, and he's got amazing consistency in general, something I haven't learned yet.
Red flag the session. Igor on pole. Let's do it. And then reverse grid it.
Pole Gore.
So yeah, very, there you go. Far away.
We'll have to see once Tim actually sets a valid lap, because he's the only AM that hasn't set a valid lap yet.
Yeah, true that. So there is only 6 tenths between the top 4. So a couple of good laps being put down there by Jensen Miller, Price Davies, Zavaka. They're all on there. And then Bowden, another sort of second or so behind, watching him go around here in the papaya Ferrari. That's an interesting concept. So he's got a little bit of work to do, does Will Bowden. But he's a pretty talented driver as well. So I'd expect him to improve. And yeah, it's still a wet track now. So yeah, as I said, I don't see this progressing into sort of a damp. But if it does, as we said before, really good shot here for a couple of these AM-class drivers to yeah, mix themselves up into the middle of the grid, which will make for a very interesting race start. And the 3-hour race tonight brings about a bit of strategy in terms of fuel saving too. Obviously, the Porsches in the last round were particularly strong because they get to potentially try for a one-stop strategy based on their fuel saving, as opposed to all the other cars, which really have to stop twice. They just don't have the fuel saving capacity that the Porsches do. So the Porsches, I think, as I said tonight, really strong in the wet, but also if they only get to do one stop, they're going to be a really good shout tonight.
Yeah, that's what, that was actually your strat last race, wasn't it?
Yeah, we only pulled that strat because it meant that I didn't have to do a pit stop, which is the big brain.
Yes.
So
the
yeah,
one weakness of JC, pit stops.
I got more than one weakness, but that's definitely the biggest one. I give you the tip. Jolmes started the race, pulled off a mega stint, put us up into P1 before the pit stop. Sorry, I'm getting force-fed a McFlurry here at the same time. And then, yeah, didn't have to do a pit stop. So Jolmes did the pit stop, and I brought us to the end of the race and finished P4. Bit sad to be not out there tonight, but Tim Purcell has happily jumped in the car, and he's going to be filling my boots tonight. So looking forward to watching them go around. Gobby's set himself a lap here.
Yeah, finally, P3, and hopefully you get back in soon. I know you're healing up pretty well, and you've been doing a little practice on the Fruit Bowl, pissing some people off under a different alias, but it's all good.
Oh, all's fair in love and war.
I think we're running 3 more minutes until AM quali ends and Pro Am begins, and I don't know. They're looking pretty fast. It looks like they keep setting faster times. Maybe track's getting a little drier.
Yeah, they've been looking for 1 minute 53s in the dry, so they're only 10 seconds off that. That's pretty good from Price Davies, especially. A really tidy lap, but Jensen also in the 203, so a couple of really nice fast times up there. Looking really good, the AM-class drivers so far.
And Bowden as well has caught up to the back of Igor in terms of AM. It's mostly almost all within a second now of each other. Yeah,
he's figured it out. Young Will, I think he'll improve again too. The Ferrari's not particularly strong here, but I don't know how it goes in the wet. I feel like it'll be pretty good. As you said before, the mid-engine cars are going to be pretty strong tonight, but I think the Ferrari probably lacks a little bit in terms of pace around here. Wouldn't mind seeing the BOP, Glenn, if you'd be so kind to just give us up the scoreboard or the timing board there, and I think we can have a little look at the BOP, because I know that there's a couple of cars that got a pretty big stick here. And obviously the BOP is very different in the wet too, so there you go. So McLaren minus kilos around here. That's interesting because the McLaren used to be very strong around here. Obviously it's weakened a little bit. The Bentley minus 22. It usually is minus the Bentley, but it's only minus 22, so it's obviously had some laps done as well. The Ford plus 15, that makes sense. The Ferrari's plus 13. Interesting. That'll really be holding it back. But Price Davies has gone to the top with a 203.5 and 203.7. Oh, Jensen goes with a 203.5 as well. So it is getting really tight up the top there. That Bentley Puts himself in a P1, does Zaki. Nice work. And it started to rain now too, so I don't think there's going to be much more improvement before this one finishes. So that's a critically well-timed lap from Jensen.
I mean, Miller's up here by, and Igor's up by 7/10 almost and he's gaining. If he holds this, this might be a provisional P1M. God damn it.
Got him. There's one. We've got a long night ahead of us. We'll tick a couple of those off, I'm sure. Hello to YouTube chat, by the way. Blake's in there. Hello, darling. Bodie. Chris crashes. Chris, why aren't you racing? Oh, you would be, wouldn't you? Oh, where's my... I don't know who you're racing with. Chris? Oh, probably Cookie. I'll tell you what, I was watching Cookie around the practice server before. He was cooking. So, yeah, expect those boys to have a really strong night tonight. This race start is going to be one for the history books. Couldn't agree more, Benjamin Bignett. Nurburgring Turn 1 is notorious for drama at the best of times, so throw in a bit of moisture. And, yeah, we're really looking forward to the race start for this one.
And not to mention, anybody coming out of pits either has to wait or has to try and get in there.
I threw down the gauntlet when I said they weren't going to improve times, but I tell you what, 4/10 up here from Zach. He's already on pole here for AM class. He's looking to improve again. 8/10 up coming into the final corner here for Miller. So I said with the rain starting that potentially we'd probably see a drop-off in the times, but that hasn't happened. These boys all just acclimatising to the conditions now, and that's a ripping lap from Jack Miller, 2:02.9. The first driver into the 2:02 sees 6/10 clear of the others, but Jensen coming around the corner now with only 3/10 in the bag, so not good enough for P1, but he does improve. So a pretty tidy effort there from Jensen, a really good qualifying session from him. And that'll be it for your AM class drivers. So Miller on, as you said, provisional pole, but now we get to see the Pro-Ams come out. Some really nice liveries on these Pro-Am cars.
I remember Thurkalini being behind me in the 12-hour of the Nordschleife. I was in the Mustang livery, and they were right behind me like, hey, they've got another cow livery.
I haven't heard Damiano here in the box for a while, by the way. We're going to get him up here in the commentary box sometime during the week in the sprint series, I reckon. Miss his dulcet tones. But Jesus, he's been putting so much work into this Porsche. He's gone from middle of the pack Pro-Am, kind of around about 20th type sprint driver, to finishing in the top 10 most weeks in the sprint series. He's having a very good run of form. Here's Damiano Thurkalini. So, and here again tonight, as I said, the Porsche in the wet at this track, I feel like there's a really good chance for a lot of these Porsche drivers to have really good nights. So, you know, I'll be keeping my eye on Thurkalini for sure.
I'm just hoping that some cars will just surprise us by how well they perform versus how well we thought they would perform. For example, the Bentley, I didn't think that was going to be any good, but look at Jensen up in P1 for AM with that thing.
Was it P1? Nah, Miller was P1. Miller was P1 on the Porsche, and then it was Jensen P2.
Yeah, right, Jensen. Yeah, my bad.
Oh, look at that livery. Yes, darling, I'm coming. Sorry, shit. There you go. Oh, I'm on push to talk. My bad.
I can
have a look at this livery. Goodness gracious, that is gorgeous. Cricky's outdone himself with another Nissan livery here with the Pixel Racers. God damn, we look good on track. We look even better in the wet too. I reckon the Pixel Racers colours just pop. I might be a little bit biased, but goodness gracious, that's a good looking car.
I was actually looking at the other Pixel Racers livery as well, and you know they're all fantastic. Because there's a Mustang one as well, I'm pretty sure, and there's probably another one that I didn't see.
Yeah, I think we've got one for every car now. We've gone through enough sprint series and enough enduros now. We've got the Bentley, we've got the Ferrari, we've got the McLaren, we've got the Porsche, we've got the Nissan, we've got a Bentley, we've got, I think I said that.
Audi?
No, don't have an Audi. Yeah, the Audi's crap. No one drives the Audi. Only weirdos drive the Audi. We don't have a Mercedes. We don't have a Lambo either, actually. So there's actually a few more that we haven't ticked off the list yet. But no, we've got most of them done. I think the BMW is actually the best looking Pixel Racers that we've got, so I can't wait to get that one back on track. Anyway, Thurkalini was the first person out on track for the Pro-Am, so we're going to see him come around and not be the first person to set a time. It was actually Pete Viney who put himself up there, but it is Thurkalini who goes to the top. Vintner also setting a time, but Thurkalini is 3/10 clear of Viney and Vintner, so a very good start there from Damiano here. Marshall also coming through and sneaking into P2. And Derek Lim here, just a little bit of controversy with this car pre-qualifying. They were in the BMW for some ungodly reason, and there was a lot of good work going on behind the scenes from Matt and Glenn trying to troubleshoot this car, who, as I said, they turned up in a BMW when the entry list clearly said they were supposed to be a Ferrari. So they've got it sorted out now, but I bet you they wish they were back in the BMW with the handling of the Ferrari, not really paying too much credence to them in the Mercedes arena there. So no good. Anyway, try again, Derek.
Scott Rockford in the Kovacs McLaren. There's a few Kovacses, a few Pixel Racers, and there's not really that many other like big teams that are running multiple cars, right? It's just mostly Kovacs and Pixel Racers.
KA Motorsports, they have a couple. There'll be a few of those boys out there for sure. But no, I think you're right. There's a lot of new drivers in Octane Online Racing over the last 12 months, and it means that the bigger teams have sort of departed for other games, and they've all sort of created new teams, or just sort of ventured into the sport themselves and created solo teams. These new drivers, so I'm all for it. Whoa, there's a bit of an accident there from Crickio. I think got a little bit sideways as they came up into the Schumacher S, and he couldn't quite sort it out before Rockford arrived on scene, and I think there may have been a little collision between the two. Scott's obviously invalidated here and is 2.5 seconds down. So even if they didn't make contact, it certainly put Rockford off his lap. But yeah, it was Cricky through the Schumacher S's there, having a bit of a whoopsie-poopsie. And Rockford, unfortunately, I think there was a bit of contact. Hopefully not enough to ruin the car.
The front bumper is looking a little scratched there, but maybe that's just the livery. We don't know yet. Ben Vintner with a 2012. Man, if these guys are doing that in Pro-Am, I want to see if the AMs can break the 2-minute flat and go into the 159s. I'm calling it now. First one in the 159s has to be Porsche. It's got to be.
A couple of very fast pro-class Porsches too. Holmes, obviously Taylor as well we're talking about, although I think Taylor said that Cookie's going to be doing qualifying. So yeah, a couple of very fast Porsches. I think you might be right.
That's a lot of damage on the GTR for quali.
Oh, it is too. Yeah, it is Witchell. So a bit of a timing tree error there leading us astray. It wasn't Cricky who came a cropper in the S's. It is actually Mark Witchell. But yeah, as you said, John, that's a sick-looking Nissan now. I'm surprised he didn't just pull that back into the pits, considering they still have sort of 2.5 minutes to go. Could probably get out there for one more warm-up lap and a flyer, but he's just going to stick it out. The Nissan handles damage pretty well anyway. It wouldn't be a great deal of damage. It'd be, especially if it's all side damage down there, that probably looks worse than it is, I would suggest.
Yeah, it's probably just body damage, not suspension damage, and the GTR is pretty good at going sideways too.
Amen to that. Thurgalini here again was setting the pace early on, but that lap from Vintner, a 2012, is extremely strong. So a lot of these Pro-Am guys are a full 1.5 seconds or more behind that lap from Vintner. So yeah, that's going to be pretty tough to beat for most of these Pro-Am drivers, I think.
KFC Audi!
Yeah, it's a good livery.
Damn it, I'm hungry now. I want some KFC.
Saxon Hayes, the first one to bring out the KFC livery on the Audi a year or so ago, now being picked up by Kafil Slade. And coming across here with 7/10 in the bag. Might be close enough, not just behind Vintner there, 0.06. Very, very solid effort. The Audi's pretty tough to drive in the wet too, so he's really got that hooked up there by the look of it, running TC2 and giving it a fair old crack. You can see the behaviour of that Audi as he rounded turn one. He's certainly trying to find the limits of grip, and that curb is very no-touchy in the wet. So he's tried to use it and maximise track space, but it hasn't worked out for him. So that's the end of the qualifying for Kafil Slade.
Yeah, just a quick side story about the Audi. Back when I was in rookies, I'd post in the setup chat asking for setups for the Mustang, and then another person, I think it was Goris at the time, was trying out the Audi. He went in, it was the Kyalami wet race. He asked for a setup, and Lucas said, Audi in the wet goes in the bin. Don't drive it. There's no setup for it.
Yeah, no, it's a bit like that. It's just not popular. It is just not a popular enough car to, like, there's paid setups out there, but generally a lot of the good setups that you'll find in OOR or any other league that we participate in are setups that have started as paid setups, but have sort of been developed by, you know, our faster drivers or our mid-pack drivers to make them a little bit more drivable for your average Joe like you and me. So the best setups are the cars that are driven the most, and the Audi's just not popular enough for that. None of our fast drivers pick it up for sure, and we've got a couple of mid-tier weirdos who give it a crack, but yeah, it's certainly very hard to find good setups for it when just no one drives it, as opposed to, you know, the McLaren, the Ferrari, and the Ford. Everyone drives that, so you can find multiple setups and have a crack at a few of them and find something that suits your tail.
Yeah, I've heard that, now this might be slander, but I've heard that the Lambo is better in every way except top speed, and I refuse to believe that. Well, because I haven't tried the Lambo yet. I've tried the Audi for a few tracks. I'm considering it. I'm really considering it, JC, for next season, I mean.
I've driven the Audi once. We took the 6-hour Silverstone. Me and Eric Scarney took it for 6 hours. I think it was 6 hours, Silverstone, and it was pissing down that day. It was rain all day long. And we actually had a great old time. It was pretty tough to drive, but we didn't spin, we didn't have any errors, so maybe it's not. But I think that we tuned down that Audi setup so much. Like, we really made it particularly safe. So it wasn't extremely quick, and, you know, we weren't challenging anywhere near the top 10. So, I mean, you can certainly make it drivable, but you've got to make it so balanced to make it drivable, as I said, for the average Joe. And when you do that, you lose a lot of its pace, which just puts you back. There's just so many other cars that are much easier to drive and get pace out of. I don't think, yeah, you got to find a way to enjoy the game, and if you enjoy the Audi, then go for it. I'm not saying anything against that, but if you want to go fast, then yeah, I just don't think the Audi's the play.
Here we go. Pro-Am's just wrapped up. The Wishels actually managed to get in a decent lap without damage and end up as just above the AM class.
Audi Maniacs, that's the one. That's the livery we took, and that was Rob Maddox, who used to drive the Audi flat out, actually. Forgot all about that now that he's touristed around every single fast car in the game. I forgot that he drove the Audi, Rob Maddox. Hello to you, mate. Good evening. So very well classed here. Look at all those Pro-Ams stacked up the top there. And then all the AM-class drivers below. Only Gray sneaking himself in amongst the AM-class drivers there in the McLaren, and maybe just not having the practice to get a good enough time. But other than that, some really nice grouping and classing by Octane Online Racing. Put all the Pro-Ams up. But here come the pros. I don't know exactly how many there is. What have we got? 30 cars in total, and 25 have qualified? No, 19 have qualified. So we've probably got about 10 pros. Maybe 11 pros, unless there's a safety car that I'm not seeing. I don't think there is.
Here's McNeil in a Lambo, the thing people call better than the Audi. It's probably easier to handle, you know, probably easier to drive, but they share the same V10 because they're both owned by Volkswagen.
Well, you're going to know more about that than I do. I can't stand this car. I'd prefer to drive the Audi in terms of enjoyment. I cannot stand this car. The friggin' A-pillar in it, because I don't drive bonnet cam like some other weirdos. I drive in the cockpit. You can see the A-pillar nearly sticking out the window there. Look at it. It's friggin' horrible. Sitting in the driver's seat in this car. Oh, my God. Who was that?
Whoa.
Absolutely Tokyo drifting it there. That's a warm-up lap too, by the way. Very nice to have a Porsche in front of Austin McNeil. Yeah, sitting in the driver's seat of this Lambo, all you can see is A-pillar. It's just gross. Look at it. What is the point of it? It's so huge. It takes up half your friggin' screen. Shit car.
Wow, yeah.
Garbage.
Same dash as the Audi, I'm surprised because the Audi doesn't have that. Or does it? Am I just being blind? I have to go check later.
The Audi's nowhere near that bad. It does handle a little bit like the Audi, where it sort of rotates through the middle of the car, as opposed to, you know, from the front or the back like most of the other cars do. I think the sound's overrated. I don't think the look of it is very nice. I just don't like the Lambo.
Fastest lap for Michael Babb, and your old teammate Jolmsy takes it away with a 2.9 in the Porsche. You have to see a 59 though.
He's still my current teammate. I'm not dead. Get up there, Jones. Hopefully I'm back for the next race. I fucking love the Duo series. I'm so sad I'm not racing tonight. But anyway,
well, the next Euros is like a month away, and you've been practicing. Your arm's almost back to 100%.
Yeah, but I've been doing fruit bowls, which are 12 minutes. Like 12 minutes is a lot different to 60 minutes, or duos when we're doing like 90-minute stints. That's a whole lot different. Look at that livery. That is gorgeous. Any League of Legends players out there? That is Teemo on the side. Absolutely gross. Stretch res Teemo with some mushrooms. Who thought of that? What an idiot. That has dried up too, by the way. The rain has stopped. So these pro class drivers are going to be out there tearing it up on a, hopefully, evolving track over the next 10 minutes. We're going to see some really, really quick times here. I don't know whether it will dry up enough to get to damp or definitely not greasy, but with the rain having stopped, I think it will improve. You were talking before about this Liam Hamilton. This man's very, very fast on his day.
Yeah, it's the Astons and the Porsche that are really, really good in the wet. And as you can see here, P1 Porsche, P2 Aston, P3 Porsche. We'll have to see what the rest of the pros can pull out, because there's also, I see in P7 right now, a Mustang. And another Porsche goes up into the third place.
I tell you what's really going to answer some questions for me too is the Ferrari of Mitch Hobbs. He's cruising around at the moment. He's obviously teammates with Jean-Pierre Senekis, and I didn't think the Ferrari would be particularly strong here, but the BOP says otherwise. And as I said, the BOP it's a little bit unbalanced in the wet because the BOP is obviously created for dry conditions, and the different cars have different strengths in the wet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Mitch Hobbs come across the line pretty shortly, seeing what sort of time he can put down, and that will really let us know exactly where the pace of that car sits, as Austin McNeil goes quickest with a 2-flat 7:07, and it isn't beaten by Hamilton either. So that's actually a very fast time from Austin, and I shouldn't sound surprised because he's a split blue champion here in Octane Online Racing, so he's a very fast boy. I just didn't think he had that kind of pace in him, but goodness gracious, that's a tough lap from Austin McNeil.
Or were you going to say he didn't have that kind of pace in him in the Lambo?
No, he's a very good Lambo driver. He's probably the #1 Lambo driver that I know. I can't imagine that. Look, there's probably some others who I'm going to get angry emails from, but I think that's Austin's car for sure, is the Lambo. He loves it.
Yeah, Austin to the Lambo is like Breno Ellis to the Porsche. He's the Porca Lord at the moment, because I've only ever seen him drive the Porsche, and he's really freaking fast.
Ryan Anderson knows who Teemo is. Hello to you, mate. Yeah, I don't know. Look, it's Joms. Joms is the Teemo player. I don't play Teemo. Joms is the Teemo player, so you can blame that on him. Should have seen the livery we were going to get. It was like a 911 inspired type thing. We're like, oh, we're not going to get that past Glenn.
Well, maybe you should ask for my permission first, as I am a American, half American actually, but I am still an American citizen, and I still think it was a tragedy. But it's 20 years ago.
I was going to say, is it too soon? Is it still too soon? Can we get that through? Probably not. Here's Hobbsy, and he's 9/10 up, so I'm kind of curious as to whether this is track regression or whether he just didn't have a good first lap, which was 6/10 off the pace. But he's going to put himself on pole with this lap if he can manage to hang on to it. He's still got the final chicane to go. Notoriously difficult, this final chicane, to get right. You've got to get all up on top of the curb there, and then there's a big bloody sausage on the second apex there, which can really ruin most laps. But he's absolutely nailed it through that last chicane. Found another 2/10. So this will be good enough. It will be good for provisional pole. Austin McNeil has improved to a 2-flat 6, but this is Mitch Hobbs, ladies and gentlemen, 2-flat 3, and a 59.9 right behind him from Liam Hamilton. There's your 59, John.
I was wrong. It wasn't a Porsche, but it was the Aston, and that is actually really impressive because all these pros, the track is drying up, and they are all starting to cook. The track is starting to heat up with their skills.
Is it? Can we get Glenn, can you show us what the track condition is? Has it gone to damp? And are we going to see a really, really interesting last 6 minutes? It hasn't. It is still wet, and it is still 14 degrees on track. The sun is out, so it probably is improving just a little bit. But I think most of this is coming from the fact that none of these drivers have practiced in the wet, because who the hell does that? So I know a lot of these drivers haven't even practiced in the friggin' dry. Like Peach, for example, hasn't done a single lap. He hasn't done a lap since Bathurst has Peach, so he's going to be interesting to watch tonight.
Yeah, I did like 4 hours of practice and 0 hours of wet practice. So we'll see how I go in our middle stint too. And if it rains, oh boy.
Wet driving's so much fun. It's the best way to drive in the wet. Absolutely no more fun to be had. Lock it in. Top tier racing in the wet. Any track makes any track good.
We're on board with Luke Johnson in the McLaren P1. I almost said Bentley. P1 Aston Martin, P2 Ferrari, P3 McLaren, and Austin McNeil in that gold and black. That is a sexy livery, though. I want to make a sexy livery, but I can't. Every single one I do, it ends up just looking memey or overkill.
I'll get you to do me one. I like professional clean liveries. I'm not in for those memey things. This is going to be a bloody good lap from Austin until he got to that final chicane and he kind of dampened himself out of it, so he lost a little bit of time through there. Still don't think, even if he held on to that, would have been good enough for pole, though. He's still 3.5 tenths off Hamilton's time of a 59.9, but that's a pretty good pace there from Austin. I'm really surprised to say. I shouldn't be surprised, but I just am. Like Hobbs and Holmes and Hamilton, I think, are just a level above, but he's really stuck himself up there in amongst it.
Here's the other Audi team in P6. 3 tenths up, and we still have 4 minutes of qualifying left, so they, track's getting drier. They're probably, all right. Thank you very much, Glenn.
They have finished. There's 5-minute driver briefing at the end. No, it got me too, John. Don't worry about it. I did exactly the same thing when I said there was 6 minutes left. I thought we were going to get some more out there, but no, that's it. They're all going to park it up. Is there anyone still on a lap now? We're watching the car come through the chicane. He's on a blue lap, so that's not in.
200? That is, I think that's the Ford. No, is that 290? My eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
There's still 1 or 2 circulating, but I don't know whether these are still valid laps. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on Cookie here to see if he is. He's still polling around like he is, so he thinks he's still on it. And he's found a little bit of time there. He was 2 tenths down, but coming onto the back straight here, he just didn't quite get the exit out there, so not sure any improvement coming from this, which is a bit disappointing. He needs to find 9 tenths through the chicane here. Let's see if he's got it in him and just chuck it through there, see what happens. And invalidates on the exit. So that'll be it. Liam Hamilton on pole. That is a cracking lap from the Aston Martin driver. And
the
Austin
only
McNeil
59.
P2. Yep, nice work. Really impressive. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the field too. As you said, he's 3 tenths clear. And it's all in that first sector. Look at that. Austin McNeil with 2 purple sectors is 3.5 tenths back. Because Liam Hamilton has absolutely nailed that first sector with a 57.1. That is incredible considering the rest of the field is basically mid-57s. There's a 57.2 there from Hobbsy, but other than that, everyone else is in the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, and the 7s. Cookie there with a 0.3, but that's a crazy first sector there from Hamilton. Really nice work. So, as we said, just a driver briefing going on now. Matt Powell, our race director this evening, will be just chatting to the drivers, saying good evening, talking them through the startup process and getting them prepared for round 2 here at the Nurburgring. As we said before, 3-hour race, no mandatory pit stops, but of course with a 3-hour race you're going to be pit stopping anyway, so it's up to you what you do with the strategy. The Porsche drivers, as we said, probably looking to try and stretch out their fuel tanks and go for that 1 stop. But it is difficult to do because you're punching at a pace that is a little bit below 100%. You really have to manage your fuel per lap as opposed to trying to punch out the best times lap after lap. So that's what they're going for. Everyone else, the Astons, the Lambos, the Ferraris, hammer.
Raining.
Hello. And it's bloody dark too.
I was going to say, yeah, because the weather widget, it was in qualifying at 30 minutes, it wasn't raining, and obviously this has jumped up ahead 1 hour, and wow, it's raining in 10, raining in 30, it is going to stay raining.
It's just straight moisture. Absolutely bucketing down, and it's dropped to 12 degrees track temp, 12 degrees ambient, so those conditions are not improving in the slightest. I've got a couple of the drivers' streams up on my other monitor here, and there's a lot of shaking of the head going on. There's a lot of disappointed drivers who I think were maybe hoping that it would improve for the race and they'd get a dry start. There's a few disappointed head shakies going on.
There's the other Pixel Racers Mustang. Beautiful, beautiful livery.
So what do you reckon's better, the mostly blue or the mostly purple? Because we haven't really decided on that just yet.
I'm a sucker for purple because I think it adds a bit more flair to it. Blue is an amazing accentuary color, but on its own, it can be a bit bland.
Right, interesting. I prefer mostly blue. I prefer mostly blue with, you know, just a touch of purple as the accent and then the black. So I don't know. It's just...
Well, you don't need the flare because you are the flare. You sideways the GTR whenever you want, so...
good times. Take me back. Stuff the Porsche. Put me back in the Nissan. That GIO McLaren from Johnson's a very good shout too. I like that one. That's a bit of nostalgia going on there for that one.
The Audi and the Ferrari looking very similar in terms of, you know, aesthetic taste. You know, bit muted, looks fast. They'll be fast enough. Man, Hamilton livery right there. That's a colorful one. Right at the front.
Yeah, the Torva Mesa Aston Martin. That's been around for quite some time in Octane Online Racing with a couple of different drivers behind the wheel of that one. So...
Man, JC, I'm still in team speak with my team, and let me tell you, Tim is yelling expletives. It's raining. He's in the Mustang. He's crying, bringing back the Ferrari. I want to drive the Ferrari. Learn something else, John. This car sucks.
Yeah. Well, get stuffed. Suck it up, boys, because we are going racing for 3 hours here in about a minute and a half. We're going to go around on the formation lap. There'll be a lot of dragging of the brakes, trying to get temperature through the car and get them all warmed up before we head down to turn 1 for the first time, which, as we discussed earlier, turn 1 at Nurburgring GP is almost always bedlam. I think we might be actually in a bit of a better way to go through. It's better in the wet. Obviously, everyone just sort of goes into survival mode in the wet, which might make it a little less chaotic. You might just see them all get on the anchors a little bit earlier and just treat each other a bit nicer. But, you know, I'm fingers crossed we see a bit of messiness.
We will have to see as we approach the AM drivers here. That is I'm not sure what the taste was in that Bentley, but I know the drivers, they're very decent.
That ANZ CRL car, that McLaren's a banger. I like that. That's very nice. Then there's Papaya Ferrari. I'd like to know the story behind that one. Obviously, Papaya is a very much a McLaren type thing, so they've just chucked that on a Ferrari. I don't know if there's a bit of a story behind that. I wouldn't mind hearing what's going on there.
Actually, I want to know why you hate mangoes. Why?
Garbage, because they're crap. It's the worst tasting fruit there is. Absolute trash.
Do you like the bland mangoes, or the sour mangoes, or the ripe mangoes? Because you got
any of them. None of them. Crap.
Impossible. Oh no.
Crap.
Wait, maybe they're starting from pits intentionally. I think that's an intentional pit start because of the bedlam at T1, as you said, with a Hello Kitty bow on the side.
Hello. Put that livery right.
Toto,
that's nice.
That is Nathan Monks and Diabolus.
Is it?
Ben Curtis, yeah.
I'm on their stream. I'm not seeing... Oh, because he's flicking through cars. Yeah, right. Oh, they might have had just the way that... I don't know whether they rejoined server or... One's connected and one's driving, so I don't know whether that was intentional, as you said. Toto and Ben Curtis starting from pit lane here.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll find out as we start our formation lap. Yeah, it is raining. All this fog, all the spray. I wonder what visibility looks like if we could get an onboard somewhere sooner or later.
It's bloody dismal for even the bonnet cam drivers. I'm watching, as I said, Peach's stream at the moment and just looking out the bonnet cam of Hobbsy driving the car at the moment. It's, yeah, it's not great, the visibility. And this is only on the formation lap too. Once they pick up the pace a little bit, it'll probably get even worse. So, yeah, very dark and dire scenes here.
I'm not sure how you do it, but every single rain race I've had where I can't see the brake markers, I'm like, okay, muscle memory, I should brake around here. I'm going to brake a bit earlier just in case.
I generally just hold up the people behind me, get about a second gap to the car in front of me so I can get some vision and then just take off from there. And by the time I catch the car in front, then, you know, that's all spaced out a little bit. But I just put the 80% driving shoes on and I just hold up everyone behind me, drive like an absolute menace, park it in the middle of the road.
Ooh, all right, we're still in formation lap. Oh, my heart.
Yeah, still ghosted. All good. God, that takes me back to F1 days. Used to commentate the F1 series here for Octane Online Racing. There's no ghosting in the safety car period. It's just when you see people just drive up each other. Oh, that's absolutely gets your balls in your mouth. Oh, it takes me back. Oh, the amount of collisions we saw under safety car in the F1 series. A lot of damaged front wings, and of course the F1 car is much easier to damage too than these GT3s. Oh, a lot of diatribe, a lot of nasty words between the drivers when there was collisions under safety car. Very funny stuff.
Man, here comes the double up. Race start in 30 seconds. They're rounding the last corner soon. Man.
Hello, Marshy. Happy Saturday evening to you. Welcome to round 2 of the Nurburgring GP. As John said, we're coming around the final corner now, and they are going to line up 2 by 2. Liam Hamilton on the right of screen up the front with Austin McNeil. I assume those 2 drivers, by the way. I haven't checked that, but anyway, green light. It looks like maybe Ben Hignett is actually in the car there for the Lambo on the left, and it's a good start on row 2 from Hobbsy, who looks like he's going to have a little play around the outside. We come down here and they file 2 by 2 into turn 1. Johnson in the red McLaren, there's a nice little move up the inside, so he's going to have a good time into turn 2. Everyone else here just caught a cascading a little bit, but it looks pretty tidy for the most part. Johnson again here down the inside. I think that's the Torva Mesa Aston Martin, who has gone backwards and is now in P4. That's a nice move up the inside from Johnson into P3. So the Aston Martin, after starting on pole, now back here in P4. And under pressure too from Stevie Ty in this Audi, who's just going to have a little look down the inside there, but not actually throw it in. But what a bloody start that is from Johnson and the McLaren. Really tidy stuff. And unfortunately, the Aston Martin of Hamilton, I think it is Hamilton in the car. It's certainly Hamilton according to the timing tower. He's gone backwards and is in P4. Ben Hignett leading the way.
Seems like there was a big incident in turn 3 in Mercedes Arena towards the back. We'll probably see that later as, yeah, what a start.
Yeah, good stuff from Johnson, but he's just fallen off the back of these 2 a little bit as the timing tower does start to sort itself out. It was Hignett very deep down into the hairpin, and he's got Hobbsy for company. Hobbsy looking very threatening in this Ferrari. He's looking very comfortable so far at the start. And Hignett just kind of really moving slowly a bit compared to Hobbsy. Hobbsy might be just very interested in a little move here if they get the chicane right, and he stays underneath his bumper into the last corner. He'll be having a very hot look down into turn 1, but it is the end of lap 1 now as they come through the chicane for the first time. In the final corner now, Hignett still in the lead after starting from P2. He's done nicely to be P1 in this beautiful gold and black Lamborghini. Mitch Hobbs pressuring the back of him from P2, and Johnson with a very nice first lap up into P3. Hamilton has fallen back to P4, and Stevie Ty running the Rockets Evolved Audi is your top 5. Nice start from all drivers concerned.
Now, I'm wondering how hard are they really going to try and push this, because obviously fuel saving is part of the strat, but from what my teammates told me, when you're in the wet, you use less fuel anyway, so you don't really worry about fuel. You just try to drive as fast as you can. I'm not very technical on those racing aspects. I know very, very little, actually.
Sorry, I'm putting Toy Story on. What was the question? Something about professional something? I'm very sorry. I got a little bit lost there. I'm sorry, I'm coming.
No problem. It's okay. You've got a family. You've got kids. Also, adorable kids, by the way. I was just saying that fuel saving, you don't have to worry as much during the wet because you don't use as much fuel anyway, but I can be easily mistaken because I have very little racing knowledge. Actually, I'm just going to look at the YouTube chat real quick because usually they have answers for me.
No, you're spot on. You definitely use less fuel in the wet. Actually, it's a very good point you make, because there might be some cars that were kind of right on the edge of being able to do a one-stop. I'm thinking the Mercedes, for example. The Mercedes is very capable of running in a different engine map. I think it's map 2, and really extending its fuel tank. So it obviously wasn't the play in round 1 at Suzuka. But the Mercedes might be able to stretch it out now that it's raining, because, as you said, you definitely use less fuel in the rain. Liam Hamilton now very, very hot under the bumper. In fact, there's a bit of a touch there, I think. Just the tiny
I feel like
little
there was, yeah.
And he's gone
down
up
the inside
and has maybe got a little advantage by going off track there. I think he knows too, and he's actually just let Johnson through there. Nice driving from Liam Hamilton. That's good driving between the two of them, managing to go through the chicane side by side. You don't see that very often from any other league, but the bloody driving standards here in OOR are top tier, and that's nice work from Liam Hamilton, who tried it, had a crack at it, didn't get it done, and then let Johnson back through. Very nice work from the two of them.
I just want to say the skill as well. I am not that confident going through that chicane with the Mustang, and the Mustang can take a real beating. That Aston, through the chicane, kept it under control the whole time, didn't hit anybody else. That is impressive. Oh, here's the turn 3 incident.
Here's what happens. This is lap 1, as you said, turn 3. And a couple of 2x2s. A little bit deep under brakes there from Sasha Death.
Bertolini.
And has turned a few around. Oh no, that's Sasha Death getting touched. My apologies. I'm not sure who it was who got into the back of them. Always very hard, of course, for the ACC timing tower not playing the game sometimes. But yeah, a little bit of a touch up there, but nothing too serious. And all of them continuing on and saying that there is a yellow flag back there now at the, again, I think that is turn 3. So turn 3 obviously causing a few issues for a bunch of drivers. The outside curbing there as you come out of the exit of turn 2 and you start to line yourself up for turn 3, that exit curb is literally ice. So especially in these race conditions with the full tanks, they'll be having a lot of trouble out there.
I've heard many people hating on Mercedes Arena, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and many people called for it to be removed. And I checked the YouTube chat. I don't have answers, but I do have Marshy saying boogity, boogity, boogity. So boogity, boogity, boogity. For you, that's a very NASCAR-esque saying, as we're here in Germany.
I was going to say, I don't even know what that is. What is that? That's a NASCAR thing, is it?
Yeah, it's a NASCAR thing. Just before race start or on race start, the commentator goes, and we're off, boogity, boogity, boogity!
Yeah, right. Okay. I haven't watched a lot of NASCAR, but I'll take your word for it. I'm sure they get as excited as we do here.
I just watched the crashes. They're insane.
Didn't someone wall ride to a race win? Is that a thing? I didn't know you were allowed to do that.
Now you're not allowed. It technically wasn't allowed, but it was never in the rules because they didn't think anybody was crazy enough to do it. But one of the drivers, he had to make up 5 positions quickly to stay in the points bracket that he needed to win, and he rode the wall. He made it all. I forgot his name, but it was an absolutely crazy move, and they banned anybody else from doing it after that move because of how dangerous it was. Because they ran simulations, they did it in the games, they did everything. He managed to make it stick, and that was like a 1 in a million chance.
Yeah, no, that's bloody cheat. You can't have that. Plus, it's dangerous. Something flies off the car and hits someone in the crowd. That's no good.
Yeah, that's why they have steel cable safety nets all over the damn place. NASCAR is crazy fast. As we're on board with Viney and Pro-Am, P3 at the moment, right behind Lunchy, Chris Murphy.
Yeah, he was having a bloody good look around the last corner there. He got a bloody good exit down into turn 1. Didn't quite have the legs, but driving very comfortably here is Tux. Looking particularly strong. One of Octane Online Racing's longest participants. Does a lot of liveries for a lot of the teams. Very talented livery maker is this man.
Actually, he might have some damage because I see a bit of scratching on the rear wing and a bit of scratching on the front bumper, so he might be struggling as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Always gets himself into a bit of trouble, does Tux. Not necessarily always of his own doing, but sometimes definitely of his own doing.
Yeah, I'm still new here. I don't know many people as well yet, so I can't say anything much. I can say, what a character. You see, you don't know if I'm implying it's a good or bad thing. I can say you're a character. I can say he's a character. It's great.
Speaking of Pro-Ams, Saxon Hayes leading the Pro-Ams at the moment in that KFC Audi. Going around with Kafil Slade, so they are top 10 overall. But that is Ben Hignett. Well, it was Ben Hignett putting in a purple lap again, but that's the first time that we've come across the line with Mitch Hobbs actually being faster than him. So whilst the gap is 1.3 seconds at the moment, Hobbsy may be just starting to work out that Ferrari and reel him in. So it is still Hignett Hobbs. Hamilton has got back past Johnson at some point. We watched him have a crack through the chicane earlier on and not quite getting it right, but he has made the move now. So Johnson P4 with Ty a second or so back in P5. And then a little gaggle of Porsches here with Yoda in the middle. So Johnson, Purcell and Taylor, 3 Porsches there in 6, 8 and 9, but Yoda cruising around at the moment in the Ford for Pixel Races in your favourite livery. There he goes there, and he's just sort of floating around in here between the Porsches. So he's probably having a tough time of it too. They have very different lines through a lot of these corners, and watching the Porsches go through and just take off. The amount of grip that the Porsches as they plug down their rear end and just get out of corners so nicely. Yoda would be a little disappointed trying to wrangle this front end beast around these shitty ass corners, but then when they get on the straight, he'll be making some nice time back up to the back of Johnson there.
Not to mention that the Porsche, usually it handles a bit better on higher fuel because the fuel tank's in the front, right? Because I know the Ford, on full fuel, it brakes better, except it's a lot heavier side to side.
Yeah, nowhere near as agile. Well, not to say that it is agile at any point, but it just becomes a bit of a slug on full fuel.
It ain't agile.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, the Porsche is very good on fuel. It's actually more comfortable to drive on fuel, as you said, because of where the fuel tank is positioned. So, yeah, spot on call from you.
I just realized, how has Goeb in AM and Jensen snuck their way up to 15 and 16th? What?
Nice, yes. That is very good. Tell you what, those front three starting to put in some really nice laps too. This is with the track not actually progressing either. It is still pissing down rain out there, and it is only 12 degrees, so these drivers just getting faster and faster as the first 10 minutes is developed. Yoda here looking very strong down the straight, but again, unless he gets side by side, he's got really no hope of getting past Carlos, who's very capable in that Porsche. Oh, there's that outside curb. Carlos doesn't mind getting sideways. I'll give you the tip. He was always in control there, but goodness gracious, gives you a little bit of a tickle when you watch that the rear end step out there on the outside curb.
I just want to say the reaction time of Johnson, I was very quick. I don't react anywhere near as quick. If any of you were watching Zolder, I react very slowly, and I spun 5 times because of it.
Yeah, no, he's very, very capable with the front axle crossed up is our Carlos. He's been driving the Porsche for a couple of seasons now, and we've certainly seen him probably sideways more often than going forwards. Carlos, he's very capable in these sorts of conditions, and look at the way the Porsche just punches out of the hairpin. That is disgusting. It just gets its power down so nicely.
I thought that Yoda was maybe going for a double apex, but I think it was just the track's just slippery and he just went a little bit wide in the hairpin.
Yeah, look at the handwork here. So you can see most drivers, that curb there's okay, obviously, but most of the drivers are just avoiding a lot of these curbs, especially the outside ones. The inside curbs, as long as you hit them straight, are going to be pretty safe. But, yeah, they'll be treating the outside curbs a lot like lava. So these ones here, yeah, you can just sort of tackle these a little bit, but then as long as you've got the wheels straight there, you're okay. But if you are still inputting some serious front axle on those outside curbs, you'll get into all sorts of trouble as the first penalty comes through for our AM-class pole sitter, Jack Miller. He gets a 15-second penalty for that incident that we saw. Damiano Thurcolini also grabbing himself 15 seconds.
So it was Thurcolini that nudged S Death during turn 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, well spotted.
It was unfortunate, but hey, accidents happen, and it's content. It's bad content. I don't like that kind of. I don't like it when people crash. I don't like when people have incidents. I like the racing content, the strategy content.
I'm open-minded. I like both. Bring it on, I say. We're all friends here. No, obviously much prefer good racing, which we saw, as we said before, between Hamilton and Johnson, and Hobbsy here is all over the back of Benjamin Gignant. And he's really starting to tighten the screws. We've seen these guys trade purple laps, and the purple lap now being held by the Torva Mesa Aston that started on pole, who's just watching this battle develop, thinking, whilst I didn't have the greatest start, any sort of content appears up in front of me here, I'm going to be ready to clean up the scraps.
Yeah, I'm surprised because at the moment Hamilton has the fastest time, but he's still having trouble keeping up with them as well. So it's just, I think it's a matter of slipstream as well. Ooh. Oh man, I really thought Hobbsy was going to slide out there because, you know, he's touching the curb. He was going sideways. Well, he wasn't going sideways, but the car itself was shifting to the side, and he's going around. He's on the inside.
No way through the chicane, but he's certainly in the mirrors now of Benjamin Hignett. And probably just getting held up a little bit here too by the Lamborghini driver, because Hamilton has really closed this up and made this a three-way battle now. So it's going to be all about who can get their power down. And I don't think the Aston's going to be particularly strong out of that last corner as the turbo winds up, but the Ferrari shouldn't be too bad. And the Lambo's always been pretty good on the wet, which is why I think Hignett's just comfortable up here and just driving his race pretty normally. Whilst it looks like Hobbsy is putting him under a lot of pressure, Benjamin's a Sprint Series winner, so he knows how to get the job done. And he's probably just happy to have Hobbsy in his mirror here. He knows that Mitch Hobbs is a very good driver and he won't be throwing it down the inside egregiously. So he says, as long as I keep it on the racing line and do my thing nice and safely, I should be okay here with these two behind me.
I hope the people in AM are watching their admin Hobbsy drive, because he's a great teacher. He does track walkthroughs for everybody. He's on the grass. I'm pretty sure that was on the grass.
Mind your curses
Why me?
there, John. Mind your curses there. You'll have a very strong email from Mitch Hobbsy if you keep that up. No, but you're very much correct. He's recently taken on the rookies under his wing, along with Josh Holmes, the two new Academy Series admins running the Sprint Series. Running the Academy Series, doing a very classy job.
Thank you for this camera angle. It's a fantastic. The rain, the spray, two cars fighting.
He's certainly improving behind the cameras, isn't he? He's never really been bad at it, but this is certainly some very good action we're seeing this evening. And he's learning a lot from the man we're on board with, who is still my #1 broadcaster, Benjamin Hignett. The way he sets up the cameras is second to none in this entire country. Any league, any game, find someone who can broadcast better than Benjamin Hignett and I'll eat my shoe, because he's got the best camera angles. He points the camera at all the right places at all the right times. So Glenn just thinks, you know what, I might just watch a little bit. I'm just going to improve myself a little. He's done a very good job here so far this evening.
I feel like if Benjamin was on the cameras instead of Glenn, we'd be looking at a lot of similar angles, except there'd be a bison in the back, because Hignett's good at that. He's good at putting stuff in that shouldn't be on the track. But yeah, you see how squirrely the Ferrari was sometimes as Hobbs was coming through the chicane? It's just a slight correction half the time. Correction from Hignett this time.
The lines through that first couple of corners too, very different approaches from the Aston and the Ferrari. Lots of different grip levels based on where the engine is in the front drive and the mid drive. Very interesting to watch. As I said before, Benjamin, a very classy, very experienced driver, is just going to have this car in all the right places. He is defending a little bit down the inside, though, so he is starting to worry a little bit about Hobbsy's pace. He certainly didn't open up turn 4 or 5 or whatever the bloody hell it is as much as he could have. He was sort of protecting the middle of the road. So whilst I thought before that Benjamin might just be running his own race and feeling pretty comfortable, he's certainly feeling the need to defend a little bit from SRO driver Mitch Hobbs, who's again here, just sort of positioning the car defensively on their way up to the Schumacher S. So it is getting a little bit tetchy here for Benjamin.
I think Hobbsy's really pushing the Ferrari as well, because I'm seeing him do minor corrections when the Ferrari has minor oversteer, and that's another thing I've heard about the Ferrari. It's a very easy car to drive, but a very hard car to drive fast.
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly right. The Ferrari's pretty easy to pick up and get up to 85%, but trying to get those really top-tier times out of it, trying to find the last couple of tenths, even in your own pace, is pretty tricky in the Ferrari, because it is a very, very, I was going to say tricky car. It's not particularly hard. You just have to drive it hard. You really have to throw it around to get the final couple of tenths of pace out of it. So no, you're spot on. It is pretty easy to pick up and go quick, but it is very difficult to go very, very fast, which is why it's super impressive watching Mitch Hobbs go around in it, because he's, as I said, SRO quality. He's a very, very fast boy. Recently turned 21 too, Mitch Hobbs. Happy birthday. Showing us here how to go fast in the Ferrari is.
Slight minor brake taps from Hignett and Lambo. Hamilton not giving up. He's still right on the tail of Hobbsy as well. I mean, looks like everybody's still mostly in the same spot. Even the AMs are still in the same spot. You know, it's nobody's traded positions yet. That's just the kind of track condition this is in. You know, they're just trying their best, and it's hard for an overtake.
Yeah, this track's a pain in the ass to overtake on anyway. Really, the only spot is down into turn 1. I mean, obviously, if you're, a pro class driver coming through the field from 15th, you can invent ways in different places. You saw Hamilton before get one done on Johnson as he goes very deep down there into the hairpin, does Hamilton. So, yeah, if you're a very fast driver, you can find ways. But when you're watching 3 similarly paced drivers here as Hignett, Hobbs, and Hamilton are, as you said, John, very hard to pass anywhere on this track. Coming out of the last corner, you need a car with a good, strong power advantage going down into turn 1, or even a tyre advantage or a fuel advantage, obviously in the longer races. But yeah, in these sort of sprint-ish races, I know 3 hours is not necessarily a sprint race, but obviously they're running a very similar strategy, these cars, and if they're all running the same fuel load, the same tyre load, you're not going to find many places to pass, even if you are sort of a tenth or two quicker, which it looks like Hobbsy may be, if you can just invent a way through. But as I said, I think Hignett is very much in control of the race as we stand.
Another thing I know about the Ferrari is that it has good top speed. It really just doesn't have the power to back it up. And all the times I've seen, the Ferrari can go really freaking fast, but only in a slipstream. And it's mostly about maintaining speed instead of pointing and shooting like some other cars.
I feel about that. The Ferrari at Bathurst seemed to have very good straight line advantage. We thought the Ford was going to be the strongest down that back Conrod straight. But every time you looked at that bloody leaderboard, the Ferraris in the 3rd sector were just incredible. So I don't know whether they had a top speed advantage or if they were running particularly low wing. And saying that, we were running a very 4-5 wing Ford. Like, it's not like we were running max wing, and we just couldn't match them in that last sector. So the Ferrari's got some top speed, for sure.
I'm sure you've seen, but I think it was Mr. Taufik himself, Shandulian, invalidating on Zolder the next lap because he was going too fast through the last corner. He was going over the limit. That's how fast.
Yeah, I did see that. We were all like, Taufik, you're cheating. You stopped cutting the bloody chicane. But you watched him, and he wasn't. He was just taking the corner normally, and ACC penalised him, said, no, your next lap's invalid because you took the last corner too fast.
You are literally too fast. We have to invalidate you, and that's just bragging rights, in my opinion.
Too fast, too fig. Hello, Craig Dale. Good to see you, mate. Why aren't you racing, by the way, Craig? What's going on there?
Yeah, I thought he was in here.
I'm going to have a look. I'm having a look at the entry list now. Craig should be racing in this duo series. Good evening to you.
Sorry, Hobbsy just almost lit out, but recovered right behind Hignett.
Oh, yes, Craig Dale, running for Rudima Spin with Chris Brooker. My bad. So obviously Chris out there at the moment. Craig waiting to get in the car.
Hamilton's really on the ass of Hobbsy right now. Everybody's just trying. Well, the top 3 are really trying. 2-second gap from Johnson to Hamilton.
Yeah, they are starting to create a bit of a gap to Johnson, aren't they? And he himself has managed to pull out a nice little gap to Stephen Tye too. So Johnson going around slowly by any means, just sort of dropping off the back of these 3 who are kind of in a league of their own. I still think Hamilton's just having a little look at the inside of Hobbsy there as they came through the exit of turn 1. So he also thinks that potentially a little bit of extra pace in this car, but they are properly stuck behind Begnet at the moment, who's just driving beautifully up there in the Lamborghini.
There's the leader and runner-up for AM class at the moment. Camera 2, thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, nice little battle here between the 2 AM class leaders too, by the way. We were talking about it before, how they managed to probably avoid the drama that we saw on lap 1. Obviously, it wasn't too much of an issue, but these guys may have just snuck through there, which is why they found themselves up in 15 to 16. So Gobby and Jensen doing very nicely to just sort of navigate that early traffic. And now the 2 AM class drivers just following each other around beautifully up here.
The 2 boats up in P1 and 2 for AM. Surprised, really.
don't know what the Bentley's like in the wet, but it used to be an absolute weapon in the moist. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that was probably 2 or 3 patches ago, which is like 2 or 3 years ago now, but goodness me, we had a bit of fun when we did the Misano 12 hour in this car. Jesus, it was wet when it just got wet. Bloody hell, it was fast. Craig Dale, sorry to hear that, mate. That's very disappointing. Oh, hello. A little bit wide there from Hobbsy. Oh, I thought that was going to invite Hamilton up as they go up the straight here. He has got a very nice run, and he's going to be in the slipstream. We have seen Hamilton go side by side through this bloody chicane before. Is he going to have another crack at it? Hobbsy just defending the inside, not allowing it on this occasion. Nicely driven there from Hobbsy, but that just allows a little bit of breathing room to Benjamin Higgin up there, just enjoying that. But Hamilton threatening now, starting to really have a crack at the back of Hobbsy, who was pressuring Bignett before, but now finds himself having to defend from Hamilton. This is the hardest way to drive too, by the way. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but being in the middle of a sandwich like this when it's raining, when you've got the spray coming off the car in front, and you're also trying to defend and not look in your mirrors too much, this is the hardest sort of racing you've got to do in any sort of sim. So Mitch Hobbs doing a very nice job here to hang on to P2 while still trying to get himself up into P1.
Yeah, another thing being in a sandwich like this is having to trust that the driver behind you also doesn't outbrake himself and take you both out.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of trust between these three, Hamilton, Hobbs and Hignett. All good friends, all in the same Discord, all teammates, so there'll be a lot of trust between the three of them. But of course, there'll be a few salty words if they happen to get into each other's business at some point here. Hignett a little bit wide there.
Lost some time, pulls it out. Well, that's another thing. If somebody made some mistake, like I was watching on Olton, Peach outbraked himself, hit Lucas. They all just had a few laughs, got penalized. You know, it's just part racing.
Well, there was a bit more than that. Give me the tip. That was a good night. Oh dear. Very interesting watching Split Red over the last couple of years with those two battling up the front. Peach has dominated every split that he's been in ever since he started racing with OOR. He's just been super consistent in multiple different cars across multiple nights. He's raced Wednesday night, he's raced Thursday night. So he hasn't just stuck to one split, he's raced everyone in bloody OOR at this point, I reckon, and he's just dominated all of them. So it has been interesting to see the young Lucas Keys arrive on the scene and really put the challenge to him and actually take a championship off him 2 seasons ago. So, as you said, whilst they are in the same Discord, certainly wasn't a lot of love lost on that night. Jesus, that was funny. Oh no.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking maybe the gap from Hamilton and Johnson is because of the slipstream these three are having going on right now, because Johnson's got none of the slipstream.
Just watched Igor Zavaka have a little bit of a whoopsie around the Mercedes section there too, so he's picked himself up and off he goes again. But yeah, no, it certainly wouldn't be helping Johnson having dropped out of the slipstream, which is why he probably can't find enough pace to get back up behind them.
Oh, looks like our AM leader has suffered a little mishap, and Jensen's he's overtaken a spot. Oh, here it is. Well, perfect timing.
He's all over it, our man Glenn. I'm telling you, he's gone from an A-tier broadcaster to an A+ tier broadcaster.
Like you said, JC.
He's taken a big chunk of grass there and has actually pulled that up beautifully. That could have been so much worse. Jensen taking a massive chunk of grass there on the inside near the pit lane, managing to get on the anchors, and to be honest, I'm almost going to pay that because he pulled it up, he made the apex, and there was a slight little bit of contact there, but nothing egregious. So I might need to see that again, but I'm going to call that a clean move. That could have been much worse. That's great driving from Jensen.
I think that's one of those I meant to do that scenarios when, they didn't mean to do that, but, it looked cool. And I think they were really close, but I don't think they did make contact because it looked like Gabi pulled away just a little bit because he was also scared. He was also looking in his rear view because he probably felt that Jensen was trying to make a move down T1.
Oh, I hope we stay with that. No, Hobbs, we haven't got it in camera one there. I'm just going to watch Hobbsy down there because he looks for Hignett defending the inside, but Hignett's defending. It's not going to happen. Anyway, it's very hard to keep an eye on both of those at once. So there you go. You saw he took a big touch of grass at the pit lane.
No contact.
No contact. Gobby opening the door wisely. Hobbsy very wide here, and that is invited Aston up the inside. Nice opportunistic move from Liam Hamilton, puts himself back up into P2. Only a very, very slight mistake there from Mitch Hobbs at the final corner. And Liam Hamilton goes, nom, 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 says thank you very much. Very quickly up the inside there. And a little close of the gap too from Johnson. I know it still says 1.4, but that is a lot closer now.
It doesn't look it, yeah.
So he's just sniffing around the back here too, picking up the pace in this McLaren. Hobbsy will be very disappointed with himself there because he's looked so threatening behind the back of Ben Hignett, but Ben's just had the door closed at all the right stages. And again, it just looks really quick here, the Ferraris, all over the back of Hamilton now, who, now that he's in P2, is wondering, you know, how much pace have I actually got here? But before he's had time to think about passing Hignett, he's got Hobbsy right over the back of him. So this is a really good battle up the front here. The first half an hour has departed us. Here you go, you're going to get your replay. It was actually Hamilton who pressured him again. He's really looking threatening tonight up into that chicane. He's not scared to have a go. And then Hobbsy touched that outside curb and did get it crossed up. So I think that's mostly come from the pressure from behind. Hamilton set that up through the chicane, didn't dive, just put the pressure on and really threw Hobbsy off his line. And then as he touched the curb, lost a bit of traction, and Hamilton said, thank you very much. That is an extremely classy move from Liam Hamilton up in the P2.
That's probably also because Hobbsy was right up against Hignett as well, and the added pressure from not wanting to hit the guy in front and wanting to make sure the guy behind doesn't hit you or overtake you, you know? We'll have to see if Hamilton can make a move on Hignett, see if he can pressure Hignett to make a mistake or just fly through the chicane.
Yeah, yeah. When you got someone else to battle now, Hignett's going to have to learn all over again where Hamilton is potentially going to throw it down, because he's been defending from Hobbsy in a few corners particularly, and has got those memorized, so has defended those nicely. But now that it's not Hobbsy, he's got to relearn. He's got to have to investigate where Hamilton's going to throw it down. I think Hamilton's a bit more aggressive this evening in terms of where he's willing to make a pass. So if he can close out the back, which he looks like he's doing through the first sector here, Hignett's going to have a whole lot more work to do now in learning where Hamilton's going to be aggressive and where he has to defend. So another interesting little period of the race coming up here now that Hamilton's found his way back into P2 after dropping off the pace. I don't know what happened there at the start. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a little perspective from Hamilton as he started on pole, and then by the time we got to sort of turn 3, turn 4, he was back in P5, so he really had a poor start. Did Hamilton in that Aston Martin. It was just probably the Aston Martin off the line, really, if we're being honest. He probably just couldn't get the turbos pulled up. The Aston just sucks off the line. It sucks in first gear corners. It's really bad. Here's a replay here. Hello, talk us through this one, John.
Well, that's an overtake. That's from... That looks like the GTR Pixel Racers overtaking Gray. Am on Pro-Am with the Merc right behind through the hairpin. That was actually really clean. That was one of the few places to... and S's.
Cricket.
Bit dangerous. McLaren takes it back. Mercedes going up to the chicane. Wait, this is
Squirrels.
This is the left. Yep.
Yeah, it's Squirrels. Yeah. Squirrels up the inside of Cricket. He's just bleeding positions down.
Ooh. Yeah, this is a tough one because maybe as well the sand ruining the tires.
Bloody Cricket. Look, he's not going to hate me for saying this because he'll know it's true. He absolutely sucks through the Michael Schumacher S. The amount of times I've seen him have accidents through there, and I don't know if it's a Nissan thing or a Cricket thing, but he's just an absolute plonker going through that section of the track. And again, they're coming unstuck, getting a really nice move done down into the Dunlop hairpin. But then for some reason, he just bloody sucks in that Schumacher S. He's going to have to clean that up. Come on, Cricket.
Yeah, no, I've died like 5 times on the Schumacher S's because I thought, oh, I'll just ride it out on full throttle, you know, I can correct it. And the car just keeps turning. I'm like, nope, I'm in the wall. Lift off the throttle, folks. Unless you're a pro. Do what pros do. I don't know what you guys do. You guys are just crazy.
Stick your foot in it. Very entertaining first half an hour here.
Still no, the rain hasn't let down. Still raining the whole time.
Yeah. Yep, and as Matt Madden rightly pointing out, the Octane races of lately have been very wet. The Bathurst race for 12 hours, obviously very wet with a few very small dry patches in the middle. And then we had a wet sprint race as well. We were supposed to be going to a wet Barcelona. But yeah, the organisers have thought, you know, we put these guys through a lot of torture over the last couple of weeks, so we might just reel that in a little bit. I think Barcelona is supposed to be... Or was that Zolder? No, Zolder was dry. Zolder was supposed to be wet but was dry. Now I don't know what they're going to do for Barcelona. Very interesting, because Barcelona, every time we go... Oh, round the outside, Hobbsy. Little bit of a touch there. Oh, he's going to have the inside line here. I think he will. Nice little move here from Mitch Hobbs. Back up in a P2, Hobbsy. Although down the straight here, the Aston's already got the turbo spooled up. So they're going to go probably side by side. Has the Aston got the legs to keep the overlap? Because if he does, no, Hobbsy closes it off. We've seen Hamilton have a crack up here, but he's not close enough this time. He's not going to send it. And that is a very nicely done move from Hobbsy, who really opened the door there for himself. Didn't force any errors. It was just a nice move. He got it stuck, and it took a few corners to get it done. But when he did, geez, it looked good.
I'm surprised the Ferrari had that much power to push that far up past the Aston. Just called in to check on my teammate, make sure how much fuel he's got left, so I swap in when his stint ends. I've got like, what, 30 minutes left, so then you'll have Gabi in.
Are you guys obviously not running a one-stop, so that's definitely another thing on your perspective?
No, I'll be in the car, Tim will be in the comms booth, and then we'll swap again towards the end of the race.
I'm waiting to see how that develops, because the Porsches have sort of dropped off the pace just a touch. Johnson is 4.5 seconds behind Ty, so he's losing time at the top 5. And Purcell still hanging out there in P8, but he's got Vintiner for company net. Well, I say company, he's 7 seconds behind. Taylor was in P9 a little earlier on, but he's also dropped off. So the Porsches just dropping off in terms of pace a little bit, but that, I think, suggests that they are all going for a one-stop strategy here. So again, just playing the Delta game, just really running to a clock as opposed to racing the drivers around them, and trying to stretch out the Porsche's fuel tank so that they only have to do one stop. So you will see the Porsches at around about the hour mark start to creep up on the leaderboard as everyone else around them pits. So I'm looking forward to seeing how many other drivers do that. As I said, the Mercedes potentially has a chance now of doing a one-stop now that we are looking like a full wet weather race. And the BMWs certainly no. The Ford sounds like a no.
Oh, the Ford's definitely a no. I actually was practicing with Chalmers and Viney in the Ford, and they were in the Porsche. And on their highest fuel, the most least efficient, I should say, map, they were still below the Ford in terms of fuel usage per lap.
That's pretty gross. Yeah, it's a bit of a cheat code in these type of races, the Porsche's fuel tank, the way it uses its fuel.
It's just a giga strat, you know. Then again, they're running around with less than half power if they're using fuel-saving strats, so it is still up to the drivers to make that drive work.
Yeah, well, you say that, but honestly, the pace is pretty similar. It's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. Shouldn't be allowed, but we do it anyway.
Shut up, JC. I'm saying it's
Very
about the skill. It's about the skill. You're going to make everybody take a Porsche next season.
I'm honestly surprised more people didn't take it in this series. 3 hours is just the perfect timing for the Porsche. Really does just like getting to around about 92 minutes on a fuel tank. So it just sort of plays in. And as I said, you've got to be very nice to it.
Ooh, Hobbsy going a little wide there.
Any sort of damage can obviously increase the usage. You know, in any poor driving, like you're really throwing into the corners and using a lot more of the higher revs to get out of the corners. You've got to drive it nicely. You've got to drive it properly. But yeah, no, it's pretty comfortably done. Here's Gobby.
Oh,
right.
no.
Oh.
No, what?
Oh, okay. He's done well to hang on to it. Let's put that out there very first and foremost. You saw the other car
Mustang is a boat.
Into the dirt. Who was it? Was that Squirrels? What an idiot. So he's just punted Gobby there and come off second best. And Gobby said, no, thank you very much. I'll keep going. All good. I think that's who it was.
Yeah, that is Squirrers. Maybe Squirrers was expecting Tim to be more on the inside, but the Mustang maybe had some issues braking. And,
this continues on here.
Watching?
Yeah, we are. This carries on. So Sasha Death there in the MRT. That's a beautiful livery too, that bright green MRT Ford. So they
contrasting to our dark red metallic Mustang. It's great.
So again, somewhere in there, looks like we've got some more action. But anyway, back up the front here. Hamilton still with the fastest lap, still pressuring the back of Obsy, and these two have just dropped off the back of Hignett a little bit, who's just enjoying a nice little bit of free air up there. Here we go. We're going to go back and find. So this is down into turn 1 as Sasha Death gets into the back of Gobby, who's going to catch it. Yes, nice, Gobby. Good driving, Gobby. He's done very well there. He's taken 2 punts from 2 different drivers over the course of half a lap and held on to all of those positions. He's kept the car going straight. Very nicely done from Tim. This doesn't keep going, does it? Please, for the love of God, leave Tim alone. What is happening here? A couple of cars back there. It looks like Hislop and a few other McLarens starting to concertina there a little bit behind Gobby, who's obviously got some issues to deal with, but it looks like they all got away safely.
Tim, I just want to say, well, he's not actually listening now that I think about it. You're doing a wait, no, I'm actually not going to say anything because I'm going to end up cursing myself. I'm going to ruin it anyway doing my stint, so good job.
It's actually a good effort. I don't know if I've heard of a self-curse before. Cursing your car before you go and get in it. That'd be a new one, I reckon.
Well, look, the Zolder race, you know, Sean Muller and Lupti, great commentators, commentating Split Red last round. They didn't say anything. They didn't say anything about me, and I still spun. It's just me. It's not the curse. Nah, man, I wish Muller and Lupti were here too.
Yeah, where's Lupti tonight? What's he doing? I don't know what he said. He was doing something. He said he double booked himself somewhere, and he did say he had something to do on the March the 1st. The idiot just didn't realise that February was 3 days shorter than every other bloody month, so he double booked himself. I hope he's good. I hope he's having a birthday party or something.
I hope it's something nice, because screw that guy. I mean, really, what a great guy.
One of my favourites, Jaden Rondinella. This battle up the front here, still just petering on. As I said before, Hignett just enjoying a nice little breath of air here, but they are just peeling those tenths back in. Hamilton just around about Hobbsy's pace at the moment, but Hobbsy's just a tenth or two a lap quicker than Hignett. We sort of dropped a tenth in that last sector or so, but I think they will just get back up to the back of Benjamin here at some point. Oh no, Thurkalini in chat. Oh no! We were talking about him before. Now he had a ripper of a qualifying session, and then the early 15-second penalty came through because he started on dries. Oh no! Oh, Damiano here. What's happened there? And then the teammate's internet dropped out and he's not coming back online. So have retired the car. Unlucky. Here's Sasha Death. Oh, this is going to be all sorts of drama here now. That's Gray getting into the back of him, as I think Sasha's really started that off with a bit of a slide coming around that corner there. But obviously, you're allowed to try and catch that slide, and he was not afforded the opportunity because the McLaren just helped turn him around. So unlucky. Just a few errors starting to creep into the field now as the hands and the eyes and the brains all get a little bit tired. We've been going for 43 minutes now and the weather has not let up. So you're starting to really see the cream rise to the top, which is why these guys now 4 seconds clear of Johnson are really showing why they are a cut above the rest. It's a really good pace up the front here.
Yeah, I just want to say, Hignett can or cannot, I'm going to lead towards can't, because here's Hobbsy back at it again. You're saying he had a moment to breathe, but if he relaxes, if he makes any sort of mistake, Hobbsy's already right up there. And then Hamilton's right up behind Hobbsy. You know, it's just a three-way at the moment, a three-way battle for P1.
Excuse me? Goodness gracious, got a little bit M-rated there. What time is it? 9 o'clock. We got to tell you know what, we're allowed to do that. It's 9 o'clock. We can get the shackles off here a little bit.
You can undress now, JC. You only promised full clothes for the first hour.
I undressed straight after qualifying. Get stuff clean. I promised nothing. No, it's actually stinking hot in this room. Once you get all the computers, because I got the missus computer in as well, so once all the computers turn on and the CPUs start running, it gets bloody. It's like a sauna in here sometimes.
I have 2 external fans. Yeah, I've got 2 external fans blowing into my computer because half the fans are clogged. It's so hot over here, my aircon can't cool down the room enough, and if my PC gets too hot, it turns off.
It doesn't help that I've got my sweaty balls going around when I'm sim racing too, because when I sweat like a dog, it's crap. So we've got both computers.
God damn it, JC.
It's really hot in here. Right, enough of that. couple of these streams have gone down over here on my left-hand side. I don't know whether that's... No, they've restarted again. I thought maybe there was some technical issues happening for a few cars over here, but I thought that would be weird if they were all doing that at the same time. So I think it's more me than them. Seems like everyone on the track is still going around, other than Damiano Thurcolini. That's just disappointing, mate. Sorry to hear that.
I mean, I guess we can be a little more lenient because, you know, this isn't the 12-hour, but, you know, the GoFundMe for Mullick, I think it's still active. And still shout out to our sponsors and viewers.
Yeah, for sure. It is still active, so if you've got another couple of bucks, go and throw that at him, because, yeah, that is still going, and we are still trying to support the great man on his return. What a day that'll be if we manage to get Neil Alexander back into the commentary booth. Goodness gracious, what a day that will be.
Hobbsy touching the sand on that last corner over there, still trying to find the... Man, Hignett doing a very fantastic job. I shouldn't have said that. And Miller in 23rd, finally bringing up P3 for M. We can see all the classes now. We've got Hignett in P1, Hobbsy in P2, and Hamilton in P3. For Pro-Am, we've got Vintner in the Aston, Saxon Hayes in the Audi, and Spence in the 420 McLaren. And P1 for M is Jensen, P2 is Gobe, and P3 is Miller with a... Oh, Sasha Death, 10-second penalty. It was probably for the little punt, but I'm glad nobody else got hurt. You know, the guy didn't spin out. Nothing too bad happened.
Nah, that's it. Just a little penalty there too, by the way. It's not nothing serious. Just a nod to the drivers to let them know that they've done the wrong thing there. And obviously, the big stick comes out with the 15-second penalties and the drive-throughs and the stop-goes. But none of that tonight. It's been really good here from all drivers this evening. We've seen some really good racing. A lot of side-by-side stuff here, which is just incredibly talented in these sorts of conditions. So hats off to the drivers for a good start to this race as we come up to the hour mark in the next 15 minutes. Yeah, we were just talking about that, Matt. We were just discussing whether or not there'd be a little bit more rain, because it has been extremely moist here on Octane Online Racing for a while now. So, as I said, I was looking at some of the driver cams on the Twitch streams that I've got going here on my second monitor. There was a lot of shaking of the head when we got to the grid, and it was bucketing down. There's a lot of disappointed fellas. So I think they'll be looking forward to something a little bit more dry, hopefully.
I've never practiced Barcelona, so I'll have to see how we go with that, especially in variable, because Split Red always gets hit with the rain. I don't know what it is. I didn't matter at Monza, because I hate Monza anyway, as Hobbsy back again on Hignett's butt from the great camera angle. Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, he is. He's got a good run ahead too. This is as close as he's been coming up into the final chicane. He's going to have a little look. Benjamin's going to defend the inside, and there's not enough overlap there for Hignett. So he's going to manage to hang on to this. But Hobbsy's got a nice little run there out of the chicane, though. And he's going to have a look. He's going to fire it up the inside. He did have overlap. Oh, he's backed out of it. I reckon he could have...
Oh, contact! Oh,
no! No. What happened there? So it felt like to me that I think Hobbsy had enough on the inside to have left that in there. And Hignett, to his credit, left the door open enough that they could have gone side by side through the final corner. But Hobbsy actually came off the throttle. He said, no, I don't want to cause a collision here. I'm going to back out of that. So he pulled out of the move, and in doing so, gave himself so much extra traction out of the last corner that he actually found his way into the back of Hignett on the exit. That was a very strange incident that occurred, I think, only because Hobbsy was being probably too polite. I'd love to see that one again. And I'm sure Glenn is furiously looking for a replay, and the best angle of that one, we'll get to it very shortly. But that, for mine, was Hobbsy potentially just being too kind, too polite.
A little bit of good karma goes a long way. I hope that was that wasn't in the time frame of me cursing him, because I know what I said, but it was like a few minutes at least.
No, you get away with that one, I think. You get away with that. Curse has got to be within the first 35 seconds. I think 35 is about right. I don't know. Anyway, Hamilton now up into the lead, gets to stretch his legs. So he already had the purple lap, which he got trying to reel the gap back in. But then once he got stuck behind Hobbsy and Hignett, which we're going to have a look at. So Hobbsy had such a good run here. Hignett defended early. We saw that, and Hobbsy rightly saying, you know what, there's no line, but then he got such a nice exit here through the chicane that I think he had enough overlap into the last corner here. He could have had a crack, but he backed out of it. Hignett was about to close that door too, but then because Hobbsy backed out of it, he got so much extra traction, and Hignett, I think, just got a little bit squirrely on the outside curb there, so that one is going to be really tricky for the stewards to decipher. They'll have all the angles, they'll get onto that very quickly, and I'm sure they will make the right decision, because goodness gracious, there's no one better than Octane Online Racing stewards for making calls on that sort of crap, and I don't envy them, because that is a very tough one.
It is, because it also looks like, sure, you could say that Hobbsy initiated the contact because he is the one that touched Hignett, but it also looked like Hignett was unintentionally slowing down because the car was sliding, and you just lose speed whenever you slide. And arguably the best spot for both of those guys to slow down, because Hamilton just shot straight through with the Aston.
I wouldn't mind seeing Hamilton's perspective, actually. It's a good call from you, because when we were on board with Hobbsy there, it looked like Hamilton had to go off track around the outside to avoid it, so I don't know how much sand he took. The Aston is pretty good off-road, and that is actually better than most cars when it gets on the grass or the dirt or any other surface that isn't the tarmac. So it wouldn't have had too much trouble out there. But here we go. We're on board with Hamilton here. So this is Hamilton's perspective as he watches this develop up the front. He's opened up the last corner here beautifully, Hamilton, expecting something to happen. And he's going to have to... Oh, he's judged that perfectly. If he goes inside there, he collects all of them. We have a big three-way tussle. But he has judged that perfectly. Didn't have to take too much of the sand on the exit. Did give it a bit of a tickle, but really got away very nicely. Great stuff from Liam Hamilton, and now enjoying a 1.3 second gap to Hobbsy, who may potentially have an invoice on the way. But again, I don't necessarily blame Hobbsy for that incident. I think that could be called as a racing incident.
I'm leaning more towards racing incident as well, because that was just an unintentional. You could see Hobbsy leave the space. It was just an unfortunate series of events.
Yeah, definitely just an unfortunate series of events, I guess. But I guess I said, we don't have all the angles, and we can't ask Glenn to go and sit through bloody 15 different camera angles and find, all the different telemetry that the stewards have at their disposal, which is why we know they'll come to the right decision. And we'll wait for that with bated breath, especially now that we are coming up to the pit stop. So with 8 minutes to go, we're going to see basically every car on track, except for, as we think, the Porsches and maybe the Mercedes. They're all going to come into the pits here in the next 8 minutes or so. So if they get that penalty in the next 8 minutes, they'll have to serve it in the pit lane, which is going to send Hobbsy very quickly back. Well, we'll put Page in the car, and Page will come out probably around about P10, somewhere around there. So that'll sort of hurt their chances of a podium here this evening.
Hamilton really pulling up a gap on Hobbsy. We'll have to see in the next few minutes if Hobbsy can... I mean, it looks like he's already closing it. We'll have to see in the coming moments, because still we've got a good spread all across the field. Oh, looks like P2M has dropped off 3 positions somehow. Maybe a slide, maybe, because any small mistake, and that's Hobbsy off the track into the sand again. He was around nobody else. Maybe the tires were a bit cooked.
It certainly wouldn't be the tyres. The tyres hang on nicely, especially the wet tyres. Of course, 60 minutes we've been going on a very wet track. So, yeah, it's not like they've gone through a couple of dry cycles or they've got any graining or anything. I think that the tyres will be fine, but he's just sort of maybe just fatiguing a little. He's just made a couple of little errors. But as I said, I certainly don't blame him at all for that accident. As I said, he got a nice run out of the chicane. He was very generous going into the last corner, not wanting to cause the contact and getting out of the move that I think he was entitled to. And then just seemed to grab so much extra traction. Ryan Anderson pointing out that he may have a higher TC setting that just gave him some extra punch out of that last corner, whatever the reason. Just seemed to get so much beautiful traction out of there, and the Lambo not really handling that last corner all that well. So I think that was a very unfortunate one for Hobbsy.
Maybe Hobbsy was so used to having the slipstream when he was behind Hignett that's messed up his line just going over there before.
Tell you what's happening now, though, is this man right here. Last lap was a 2:02.480. It is a 15-second penalty handed down for a collision on lap 22 to Mitch Hobbs. That, to me, is a little tough, but goodness gracious, as I said, that's a call made by our stewards team, and we'll leave that in their hands because, yeah, as I said, they've got all the angles. They know what happened. But anyway, back to this man here. Liam Hamilton is absolutely cooking at the moment, right in the midst of the mid-202s, which is faster than any man on track by about half a second. He's absolutely cooking now that he's got all the shackles off. No spray in the windscreen, no battles up ahead of him. He's just got the foot to the floor now and is now 3 seconds clear of Hobbsy and getting further away by the minute.
I think he's approaching our first blue flag. We'll have to see in a moment. Yep, 95. Yep, that looks blue flag. Now, another thing is when everybody has to do at least one stop, and I want to see what, because I know the driver for Hamilton is Sean Bubna, I'm pretty sure, and the driver for Hobbsy is Peach, JP Sonakis. So I have to see how those drivers tango as well, and when they do hit.
As I said, I don't think we're going to now because Peach is going to be coming out P10 or P11 or something based on that 15-second penalty. Probably even further, actually. It's a big 21-second gap from P12 to P13, so it won't be any worse than 13th. But every other gap up there's a few 6s and a few 5s. So, yeah, I reckon around about 9, 10 or 11 where Peach is going to come out. So he'll have a bit of work to do to get himself back up through the field. And as we said before, those Porsches are going to be interesting too because they're not going to stop. So we're going to see Johnson, Purcell, Taylor, they're all going to fly up the grid here as everyone else pits and probably find themselves in P1, 2 and 3 respectively, unless anyone else is doing a cheeky one stop, which, as I said, I just can't imagine any of those cars up the front here are going to be able to manage. How far away are you from going and departing and jumping in the car? Looking forward to seeing you go about your business as Hamilton goes with a 202 flat. This man is absolutely on it now.
He's cooking in the rain, just like that one SpongeBob episode where they start a fire under the ocean. Anyway, I'm about 37 liters out, so I'd say 10-ish laps. Well, actually 15 laps, which is about another 20 minutes.
Not far off the 90-minute mark, really. If you've got that much left, I don't know anything about the Ford or its fuel maps. Obviously, it's not an option, but I'm sure a couple of our faster boys have tried it over and over again, trying to make the Ford stretch out for 90 minutes. But that gives me hope that there might be other cars out there. Who else is good at fuel saving? I think the Lambo's pretty handy on its fuel. McLaren's not particularly good. The BMW's garbage.
Emergency driver swap. I'll see you in a bit, JC.
Oh, hello. Okay, good luck to you, my friend. Gobby is down there in P19 at the moment in the 1384. And we've just had the great John Gormley come in and, oh, that's why. That'd be why. Gobby's had a gigantic collision of some description because the front of that Ford is looking particularly distressed. He's being gobbled up by the other racers as they come through the, I think that's the final chicane. Yeah, it is. He's going to pull into the pit lane here and put John Gormley in the car because, yeah, no, that Ford's looking, that's not great. It's not how that's supposed to look. So an unscheduled pit stop here for the 138 Ford. Luckily, it is at the end of the stint, so it doesn't mean that they'll have to do an extra stop. So whilst this is unscheduled, it's really just going to have to mean the last stint has a bit more fuel in it than first planned. But that won't hurt them too much. They were doing very nicely fighting earlier on for P15 with Jack Zenz and the two AM-class drivers having a nice little first stint and sneaking through a bit of the traffic and chaos that happened on the first couple of laps. So they were fighting nicely. And Gobby's just had a few little errors over the last couple of laps and obviously had a big one there at some point. So here's your replay. What has happened to Gobby? That's a little innocuous, but that outside curb has pulled him straight into the wall. Unlucky. Wasn't actually that bad, really. So hopefully more cosmetic than anything else, and that's only sort of 20 seconds of damage. Front end damage tends to look worse than it is sometimes. So hopefully that's the case there for Tim, who will jump into the box here shortly, is my understanding. We'll have Tim up here and he can tell us exactly what happened there. But looked pretty cut and dry, really. Just didn't quite get the turn in that he wanted. Had to overcorrect on the way out, and as soon as you've got your front axle all crossed up on those outside curbs, you are in all sorts of trouble. And that's how it's played out there for Gobby. Following Johnson around now in the GIO McLaren. These guys have had a very nice start to the race and very impressive first stint from Johnson. He made a couple of moves to get himself up in a P3 at one stage. Then had the very quick Hamilton retake that position, and has just had a nice little drive through here in P4. He's been by himself for quite some time until obviously that incident between Hobbs and Hignett earlier on dropped Hignett back through the field. So now Hignett right there behind him. And they have Stephen Tyre for company not too far away in the Audi as well. So these three just going along nicely as we come up to the hour mark here. Looks like we do now have, we have a move. Before I introduce the great man, just let me stay on board here with Luke Johnson, who didn't quite get the run out of the Warsteiner that he wanted, but he managed to hang on to it up the straight, so he has managed to defend that position. Tim Gobb, hello to you, sir. A bit of a whoopsie-poopsie there in the last couple of minutes. What happened, mate?
I will not lie, I am a bit frustrated. I'm not very good at the Mustang in the wet, but it is what it is. I had a giga start and I kind of feel like I threw it away, but it's fine.
No, I don't think so. It's only a little bit of damage. I think you're still in for a shot for a podium here in AM class, but as you said, the start that you got off to, you and Jensen, both coming from, you know, around about P21 or whatever it was, right up into P14 and 15 respectively. You two in the AM class having a very nice start. So talk us through that. How'd the first 15, 20 minutes play out for you?
Honestly, I was trying to keep it as safe as possible, especially with that mini car, specifically on this track, especially when you're going through a Mercedes arena and just when the field is packed, it's pretty hectic. But I saw a lot of big gaps where I basically, you know what, I can make this and it's safe, and everyone else is going to be fighting each other basically, so I just basically took freebies, is what I think.
Nice. So there was a few little incidents on the first lap. We thought maybe that you'd cleaned up because of those. But other than, you know, probably one or two positions that you picked up from those spins, you're saying that you just found a couple of open spaces and made it work. All right, some classy driving. So how do you go in the wet? Did you, obviously you said the forward's not particularly strong, but is it fun in the wet? I know for obviously my own experience, I love driving in the wet. What about yourself?
Well, the Ford itself, I do not like driving it in the wet. It's either the TC kicks in too much, and when you lower the TC, it doesn't kick in enough, and it just likes to slide everywhere. But that's probably a skill issue on my end.
Yeah, not particularly fun to drive the Ford in the wet, I don't think. I think it's, yeah, much more enjoyable experiences. But, oh, these guys coming up to some blue flag traffic here, and Hignett not quite aware of it, actually. Going very deep into the last corner there. I think he had to sort of get off the throttle to avoid going into the back of Johnson, who, as I said, just navigating that blue flag McLaren there. But they managed to sneak through there cleanly, so all's well that ends well. So I'll catch you up on what's happened here, Gobby. It was a good start from Hobbsy and Johnson. Johnson on screen here in the GIO McLaren. They had a very nice start off the line. They gobbled up Hamilton, who started on pole, but didn't quite get the start that he wanted in the Aston. And by the time they got through the Mercedes arena, I think he was around about P4, P5. So really didn't get off the line well, did the Aston Martin. But since then, has just picked them off one by one in that very quick 165 entry, and has now picked up the pieces of an incident between Hobbsy and Benjamin Hignett. And those two coming together in the last corner, Hobbsy getting up into the rear of Hignett, turning Hignett around. And the stewards awarding a 15-second penalty to Hobbsy, but Hamilton screamed around the outside, used a bit of dirt to get it done, and avoided that collision and found himself back in a P1. And since then has put in 2 new purple laps, the best of which is a 2:02.0. So he's absolutely cooking out there now. There's only one other driver in the 2:02s, and that is Mitch Hobbs. His last lap was 2:02.7. Carlos Johnson did a 2:03.1 last lap, so he's also going very quickly. And Ben Vintner, actually, apologies, is also in the 2:02s. A 2:02.630 last lap makes Ben Vintner the fastest man on track, and he's also in the Aston. So the Aston Martin just loving these conditions, and he's 2.5 seconds back from Jacob Weatherburn in the 4. Oh, I'll tell you what, he's a good run here again. Johnson just not quite getting Warsteiner into Advan all that right. I don't know whether that's a McLaren thing or he's just not quite getting the power out of that he wants to, but that Lambo has threatened up into the final chicane a few times, but Benjamin not quite having the overlap necessary to get the move done. But just a couple of times there, Johnson looks like he's vulnerable, but the McLaren, luckily enough, with enough legs in the final couple of gears. So it's been, yeah, a very interesting first hour, Gobby. So now I've got you to hang out with for the next hour or so. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the rest of the field. Who have you got here as a favourite individual? Don't worry about the board or the leaderboards or anything like that. Who are you keeping your eye on? Who are you watching other than yourself and John, of course?
Honestly, looking at Liam Hamilton, I just see that he's extremely quick in general. But obviously, I did not see how quali turned out. I did not see a lot of what turned out. So, yeah, I think Hamilton's probably going to have the best chance at this, especially since he's in a mega car for these conditions.
What about back through the field? You got any friends that you're looking to curse?
No, not really. I am in voice chat with Igor and Brady themselves, and it doesn't sound like they had the greatest start either, so I don't want to make it worse for them, honestly. I wish the best for them.
Yeah, back in P24 here, Igor Zavaka, who, yeah, as I said, I was watching his stream earlier on too. I got a couple of Twitch streams going on here on a second monitor. I watched him have a bit of an error in the Mercedes. It's just a couple of really bad corners, aren't they? Those first 2 or 3 corners are really tricky to navigate, and especially in these conditions. We talked before about the exit of turn 2, the curb on the exit of turn 2 there going into turn 3. You're trying to set up turn 3, and in the dry you can really use that outside curb to open up the angle. But on this very, very moist track, yeah, the exit of turn 2 there, very nasty, and I think that's where Igor had a bit of an error there. So I saw him turned around at one point there. But hashtag not last for Igor, and 20 seconds clear of squirrels. So still plenty of hope left for the McLaren fellas.
Yeah, to add to that, turn 2 is basically, you've got to be really careful on throttle because you really want to give it the gas, but at the same time, if you hit that curb, it's specifically the green patch of the curb. If you hit that, your car just wants to spin, and it's just not fun.
Yeah, there's so many things that make turn 2 tricky. You go up the hill here, and the corner, the apex is basically at the crest of this hill. So you're coming up and over the crest, which obviously reduces the amount of grip you've got. And then, as you said, that green AstroTurf out there is just deadly. Even in dry conditions, it is an absolute lap killer, that AstroTurf. So in these wet conditions, it is just properly nasty. So there are so many different things making turn 2 extremely difficult for these drivers, and Igor's certainly not the only one to come a cropper out there today. We were talking before about Ben Ventiner, how he was the fastest man on track, and again last lap with a 2:03.1 is going very quickly, and is very quickly, very, very quickly caught up to the back of Jacob Weatherburn here. So this is going to be an interesting little battle developing here over the next couple of minutes. We'll keep an eye on that one. But again, I think both cars here looking to pit shortly. I think we've seen the first scheduled stop. We saw Mitch Hobbs come into the pits. So again, I don't know whether that's fuel-based or whether Hobbs has just had enough of driving, but they have put Page in the car, according to our man in the pit lane, David Marsh. So we have got Jean-Pierre Senekis out there in P14. They have dropped to. Goodness gracious, that is more than I thought it would be based on that 15-second penalty. They have gone, I don't know whether there was an error in the pit stops there, but they are 6 seconds behind Jensen. That's more than 15 seconds they've lost there. I feel like there must have been an issue there in the pit lane, unless they possibly repaired the damage that Hobbsy got from hitting the back of Hignett. Maybe there's an extra 4 or 5 seconds there, but I just feel like that's so far back. But anyway, Page, very, very, goodness gracious, that's a lot of grass there. Benny had a heart in my mouth there, Benny. A lot of work to do for Page, but he's a very fast boy, so he'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Yeah, about that incident, I'm surprised the car stayed stable through that. I would have thought you would have at least seen a little drift. Oh, as he goes in for the send on the outside, and he goes completely off track.
Speaking of heart and mouth, goodness gracious, he's not quite hit the braking marker there, but he also broke on the curb. And that's just, that's made it very impossible to stop. And he's done very nicely, actually, to get out of the back of Yoda there, because that could have been worse. A less talented, less experienced driver maybe would have just said, well, crap, I'm on my way now, so I'm just going to send it down the inside, and that's not the way to go about it. So he's done nicely there. He's pulled off to the outside and sacrificed a few seconds of his own race to ensure that, A, he doesn't get a penalty, but B, he doesn't kill Yoda in the process. Very nice driving.
Yeah, I think Vintern is hungry for that position, and he was perhaps getting a bit frustrated staying behind Yoda. Obviously, Yoda, very experienced driver. He knows how to deal with these situations, and perhaps that's caught him off guard.
Christ almighty, look at that gap up the top now. 13 seconds between P1 and P2. P1, P2 and P3 were separated by a B-stick for about an hour there. And that has all just developed into Hamilton now smashing the pack. Now that he's got his shackles off and that incident's occurred, he is well and truly clear, punching in purple after purple. Not necessarily beating his own times. The best lap of a 2:02.0 still stands from Liam Hamilton. But you look at the leaderboard and he's very, very purple every single lap. He's the fastest man on track by quite some margin. And his last lap was a 2:02.3. So the fact that he's only 0.3 off his best shows that he's fast and consistent. Really has that Aston Martin figured out now, does Liam Hamilton. "55 seconds stationary for Senekis and Page in the 9 Ferrari. So we don't know. We don't have a gauge yet on whether or not that's fast or slow. Ooh, about 10 seconds slower than normal, according to Glenn in my ear. So there was a slight delay there getting out of the pit box for the number 9 Ferrari. Again, I don't know if that was 10 seconds damage, though. So, well, there could have been. They did have a fair amount of contact there in the last corner. It could have been. But, yeah, so that, well, if it's 10 seconds, does that include the 15-second penalty? So is it 25 seconds extra? Right, it does. So it was 25 seconds extra on top of your average pit stop that we'll see here from the drivers. So 10 seconds on top of the 15. Probably 10 seconds of damage. That's probably what's happened there. Yoda's just managed to sneak through some blue flag traffic here, and that's just developed a nice little gap for him as Vintner now has to navigate this McLaren. And this is sketchy down here. Oh, he wanted to send it. He wanted to have a look. He wants this McLaren to get out of the way. The McLaren obviously has 4 corners to remove themselves from Vintner's way, and Vintner just very impatiently sneaking his way through there. It looks like he's a bit frustrated having to give up a few tenths to Weatherburn. As I said, he had closed up the gap there to about a second. Now it's out to 2 seconds. So he's going to have to do all that work over and over again. Hignett now up behind Johnson for P2. These guys, as I said, all going to pit soon. So we wait and see how that shakes out. And we see the Porsches all sneak up the table a bit.
Are we potentially looking at one-stop strategies for a lot of these guys, since obviously with the wet weather, fuel usage is obviously going to go down? I think a lot of these guys are probably going to look at a one-stop strategy. What do you think, JC?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's all we've been talking about, me and John, for probably the last 25 minutes, is trying to work out how many of these cars can actually do that. We know that the Porsche is capable of it in the dry. Using full fuel at full blast, the Porsche is capable. But there's no other cars that can do it. But now, as you said, because it's wet, are they going to be able to stretch it out? Is the Lambo running a different map? Is the Ford capable of doing it? Because we were trying to calculate it based on, because he had your, he obviously was sitting in the car with you at the time and was, trying to work out whether the Ford could do it. So the Ford genuinely probably isn't possible. But the Lambo here, as you can see from Hignett, is running map 3. So I reckon you're spot on, Gobby. I reckon there is a few cars out there that are potentially going to have a crack at trying to stretch this out to a 90-minute stint, and therefore bring the one-stop into play, which is just something that isn't possible at any other stage of this series unless it is bucketing down rain. So whilst it is tricky out there to navigate these conditions, it might just be a blessing for a lot of these teams, and at the detriment to the Porsches, who obviously, oh, this is close here again. The McLaren is going to have to leave this open because there was a bit of overlap there, but I reckon Johnson just closed that door. I wouldn't mind seeing that from Hignet's perspective, because that looked to me like there was the tiniest little bit of overlap there, but Johnson's not having any of that. Closed the door into the last corner. But no, I think you're right, Gobby. I think there might be a few out there trying to stretch it. It's Aston Martin here on map 1, so they're certainly not going for it unless they think they can do it on map 1. The McLaren here at map 1 as well, but in saying that, the McLaren's fuel maps are basically hopeless anyway. You don't really run anything other than map 1 in the McLaren at any stage, unless you're maybe like in an enduro and you run map 8, or you're trying to fuel save in a safety car or something. But yeah, other than that, just map 1 in the McLaren. Thank you very much. Stevie Ty here also in map 3 in the Audi. So I think you're right, Gobby. I think there might be a few out there that are just trying to stretch this out to a one-stop, which, as I said, all these Porsches who are looking to snap up all those positions just going to have to get it done on track now instead of in the pits.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about Hamilton, he only has to drive 15 more minutes. I reckon he is going to try the one-stopper, but I could be wrong. At the same time, there's still a small chance rain stops. So that's another thing those drivers are going to have to think about, which at the moment it doesn't look like is going to happen, but it's still a chance. And if you're doing a one-stop and all of a sudden the rain stops and you're on wet tires with, let's say, 30 minutes to go, you might have to stop again for slicks.
Oh, well, we're on board with Yoda there before. He's running map 2 as well in the Ford. So he's going to have a crack at it. Of course, a lot of these drivers up and down the field, all in team speaks with each other, all sitting in each other's ears and relaying information. So especially a lot of the older teams who've been here for a while have really developed those sorts of relationships, are able to throw that information around and get a good understanding of what's going on up the front before it happens, before they come to the scene. They get indications of yellow flags, and of course the strategy. Oh, Yoda! What a catch. Oh, he's just got on the throttle there, and maybe a little too aggressively in the Ford. He's just managed to hang on to it, but that's going to invite Vintner to have a crack here. We watched him have a crack around the outside earlier on when he had less of an opportunity. Now that he's got a massive opportunity, he's managed to keep it through. I think there was a tiny touch there, but maybe not. But it looks like he's going to get this done now, because the superior in these conditions, Aston Martin, just looks so planted through there, through turn 1 and turn 2. So that little mistake there from Jacob in the last corner has really compromised the Ford's only strength down the straight, losing a lot of its top speed because of that error, and that has invited Vintner to overtake him into P6. Nice work from the Pro-Am driver.
That really was a textbook overtake. Vintner saw the mistake, took the opportunity, stayed side by side. They kept it extremely clean. That's exactly what we want to see when it comes to hard racing. Maybe the tiniest of touch, but that's okay. It did not throw Yoda off track, so that was a perfect move coming from Vintner.
I don't know why I thought that was P6. P7 apparently. P7 Vintner. I don't know whether some other screen told me P6. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. I'm getting old. Liam Hamilton's still the fastest man on track last lap with the 202. He's been in the in fact, a 202.3 now as he crosses the line. So he is incredibly consistently fast, is Liam Hamilton. He is absolutely smoking the field. The next best I can see is a 203.1 from Vintner on that last lap. So the Aston Martin's certainly a cut above the rest in these conditions. Going along very, very nicely. And then other than those guys in the 202s, looks like everyone else sort of 203s, 204s. Carlos Johnson, hello. Currently sitting in P4, has just done a 202.9. So he's going along very nicely and is just 0.8 back from Stevie Ty. Can we get a look at that? Because that has absolutely closed up that gap. And I don't know whether that's just the Delta playing funny buggers with me, but I reckon Carlos here is just closing up behind Stevie Ty. Stevie Ty's last lap, a 2:03.7. Carlos with a 2:02.9, so 0.8 faster on that last lap was Carlos Johnson. He's going along very quickly. Of course, we were discussing before how very capable in this vehicle is Carlos Johnson. He's got a lot of experience behind the wheel of the Porsche now. But mixing it up here with Stevie Ty, who's obviously one of the very fastest boys we've got. He's doing very nicely here in this first stint, Carl Johnson. Jean-Pierre Senecas, we talked about, came out of the pit lane in P14. He's already wrangled his way up into P12, so he's a little cheeky watch for the rest of the race. Obviously, that 15 seconds is really going to hurt their chances of certainly the race win, probably the podium. But with Hobbs and Senecas in this vehicle, I really think they are capable of still putting this back up into P5. I think now that we've decided that the other cars maybe are going for a one-stop, that might sort of hurt them too, though. They've gone for an early pit there, which means that they're definitely going to have to two-stop. They're definitely not going to make it to the end from here. So that might sort of dent their chances of a P5 or anything around that mark. But yeah, I am interested to see how fast he can go. He's got obviously Viney, Murphy, Hind, Taylor in front of him. So very capable drivers that he's got to overtake quickly, and Hind is 34 seconds behind Taylor and that. So there's a big gap there just inside that top 10 that Senecas is not probably going to be able to reel in too quickly. But once he gets up behind Pete Viney and Chris Murphy, it'll be an interesting little battle there with those Porsches, especially now that they're on low fuel and older tyres. It should be pretty small work there for Peach, but I'm sure he'll be made to work for it by those two.
I mean, anything could still happen. There's still an hour 38 left to this race. So the odds are not likely, but they're not zero. You know, they could still pull something out. Obviously, Hobbsy and Peach, two of the quickest drivers I know personally. So we shouldn't overlook their potential performance.
Baker Weatherburn, you can see in the pit lane there too, 8 minutes shy of the 90-minute mark. So we saw them running around on map 2. So it looks like the Ford just can't make it. It just cannot stretch its legs enough, even on an ulterior map. It just doesn't have it in it to get all the way to 90 minutes. So Boxy's going to come out now, and I'd be surprised if I see him in map 2, because now that they've decided the one stop's probably not there, they'll probably chuck it back into map 1 and just go hammer and tong here. Not the case at the moment, still on map 2, but that might be just because he hasn't changed it back yet. We'll see a little bit later on whether he makes that adjustment.
It's also possible, especially with the Ford, map 2 being a smoother power delivery, especially in those wet conditions. They might just feel like map 1 is just a bit too slidey for their liking, which could be another reason why they're on map 2.
They'll cop a fucking spanking from me if that's the case. Bloody pussies. Put it in map 1. If you can't do it for fuel saving, don't blame. I definitely don't think Yoda would, and I don't think Boxy would either. No, I know those two very well. They just like going as fast as they bloody can. So it wouldn't be anything to do with power delivery, I don't think. I do think that they were trying to stretch it out, and it just didn't quite get there. And if that's not the case, I'll be very disappointed. They'll be copping a smacking in the Pixel Races room. I'll give you the tip. Is it possible, Toto, though? Like, tell me. Like, I need to know. The Porsche can go the whole race. It wouldn't be far off. Probably go at least 2 hours. That's just crazy, isn't it? No, that's what we're talking about up here in the box. Is obviously Gobby's in the Ford as well, and we just watched Yoda pit, 9 minutes shy while using map 2. So we're trying to work out whether it's possible or not. This is the Torvo Mesa Racing Aston Martin that we saw in P1. He has pitted and has now come back out and is still driving, interestingly enough. So this Aston Martin also not capable of doing the one-stop. So I think a lot of these drivers have tried. They have given it a crack. They have seen that it is pissing down for the foreseeable future, and they've said, you know what? We'll try this. We'll give it a go. We'll see if we can get this fuel per lap number down far enough that we can stretch it out. But we're now seeing these cars come into the pit lane just shy of the 90-minute mark, and therefore it just isn't possible, which means, as I said before, you're going to see those Porsches shoot up. Stevie Ty has now I don't know if that's a pit stop. No, as I said, I think Carlos has got him done. I think Carlos has gone up into P2 on pace alone, and Stevie Ty in the Audi down to P3. The Lambo also now pitting. So Stevie Ty also now coming to the pits. I think that's now, I'd love to see if you can go find, did Carlos get that done on track? I reckon he did. Anyway, we were talking about the pits. It's shy of 90 minutes. So all of these guys have tried their heart out to make the Lambo stretch. They've tried to make the Audi stretch. We watched the Ford try and stretch. But it just doesn't look like they've made it. So that really does bring the Porsches back into control of this race, because they can certainly do it. They can do it in the dry, let alone the wet. Here you go. Here's Carlos Johnson behind Stevie Ty, coming down into the hairpin. Carlos just backing off there. Nice wide, nice entry. And he's just pressured Stevie Ty into a little mistake there. Stevie Ty going wide and Carlos punching out with that beautiful power delivery out of the slow corners in the Porsche. Bang. Great move. I saw that coming from a mile away from you, Carlos, and I'm very happy you've got that done. That's nice driving. He has absolutely improved out of sight. That's Carl Johnson. He's another one who's sort of just hung around about the 10 to 15 mark in the sprint series for a long time there. But since getting into this Porsche, he has challenged for podiums and sprint wins, and he's just been absolutely on it. So really pleasing to see him absolutely dominate this race and put himself up into P1 on pace alone. Nice work, Carlos. And the other Porsche, the PR/KA car, Tim Purcell replacing yours truly, currently up there in P2. He's going to put Jones in the car shortly. So we are, as I said, now seeing the Porsches do very nicely up into the top, well, 3 of the top 4 positions. Hamilton, whilst being P1 for quite a while there, is now in P3. And Hignett now. Hignett's, have they stopped? McNeil is now in the car. Yeah, so they have stopped. Yep. Okay, so yeah, every car that we thought would have to stop, they gave it a crack. They tried to stretch it out. They didn't make it, and now they've pitted. And either Liam Hamilton double stinting, but everyone else has put driver 2 in the car. Oh, there's an interesting pit down there in P10 too. Chris Murphy in the Bin Chicken Racing automobile has come into the pits and put Michael Babb in the car. Now, this is an interesting decision because whilst there is still previous to the 90-minute mark, the Porsche can do 90 minutes easily in the dry, so it's comfortably going to do 100 minutes in the wet. So this isn't a fuel save. This isn't anything to do with fuel. I reckon this is Murphy sort of saying, you know what, Babby, I reckon you're slightly quicker than me today. Go out there and have a crack. And he's put him in the car early. And now we get to see Michael Babb float around here and see how he goes. So this is a little interesting call here from the Porsche boys. He'll be another one to keep an eye on because Kafil Slade in front of him, and Wells and Kirst and Boxall and Crick and Hislop. There's a few cars there who, all credit to them, are Pro-Am pace. So there's a very interesting little part of the race coming up here for this car in particular. I would expect Babby to get some moves done here on a couple of those drivers. So that'll be an interesting watch to see how quickly he can file through the field. The other one that I've spotted too is Jensen still in the car, up there in P10 overall at the moment. So that is the last car on the list, I reckon, who haven't pitted yet. So that, for me, is a very interesting one because we are now at the 90-minute mark. He's still going. He's going to make it all the way around here. Well, I assume he is. I don't know what sort of fuel they're sitting on. I hope he's got enough fuel to finish this lap. But if he does, they're going to make it all the way to the 90-minute mark. This AM-class team in the Bentley are well and truly in play here with the one-stop strategy, which could, therefore, propel them up the field from their total... from their qualifying position, which I think was somewhere around P22-ish. I should have taken a photo of that. But goodness gracious, what a nice little play this is here from Jensen. A very smooth and incredibly consistent first stint from the AM class driver has seen these guys in with a really good shout of a good performance. How's our mate John Gormley going? Are you keeping an eye on him in the background there, Gobby? Is he settled into his stint? Is he driving around nicely, or is he making a horse of himself?
No, he's driving good. I'm not talking too much because I'm also communicating with him, just making sure he's keeping it safe. But so far, he's kept it out of the wall. I know right now this is a graphical bug. He has not crashed the car. That's all from me. Yep. For once. Now he's been doing really good. He's been doing 205s. I'm happy with that pace. I don't want him to push the car too much. I just want him to keep it on track. But now he's been doing really well, especially he's not done any wet practice. I've told him to do wet practice. He did not do any, but he's got decent pace, keeping it very safe, and we're hoping to bring it to the 48-minute mark to where I would jump back in the car. But now I'm happy with him at the moment.
Yeah, 2:05.387 last lap from John Gormley, and that's actually pretty tightly paced. That's about 3.5 tenths faster than Mike Crick in P11. And is, it's very good pace, so going along nicely. Speaking of Mike Crick, on board here. Oh no, we're talking to Peach. What's happened to Peach? Well, hang on, we're getting word that Peach has had an issue. He's still there on P8 on the timing table, so I'm not sure if it's a connection thing. Speaking of connection, that's Nissan there from Cricky. Just jumping all over the place a little bit, looked a little bit dodgy. And Ben Curtis just pulling into the pit lane now too. So I think, as Toto was saying before, they think they can do it. They reckon they can stretch the Ford's fuel tank out enough to get it done. Ben Pearl pulling into the pits now. He's going to put Toto in the car. And Nathan Monks is a very fast driver, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness gracious, I've seen that man go faster than I think humanly possible from someone who's only just picked up ACC in the last 12 months. So watch out for him going up the field. Page has done what? Sorry, try again. Oh, he has. Yes, can't see the number 9 car on the timing board any longer. So Jean-Pierre Senekis and Mitch Hobbs in the Ferrari after what was such a good start. Up the front in the top 3, battling all along beautifully, have unfortunately disconnected. And if I know them well enough, they'll be disappointed with the penalty for a start, but then obviously having fallen back through the field and now disconnecting, I don't see them rejoining. So that's very disappointing for the number 9 entry. Yeah, it's the best looking car on the grid. Look at it. No, it's terrible. That's a terrible livery. Who did that? Who made that one, Gobby? Do you know?
Nah, I did not make this one.
Oh, actually, I thought it was you. Lol. No, it was Biggie who made that one. Zach Jensen made this one for us. Biggie hugs. No, we were going to go with something a bit more professional, but we said, no, just low effort, please. Very low effort. So, yeah, we haven't pitted yet. We're currently P1, which is exactly what we did last round. What a car. What a vehicle. Great livery, great car, great drivers. Tim Purcell, very capable behind the wheel. Tim Procell is what he made a name for himself over the last couple of seasons in the Sprint Series, because he just hung around in silver, taking the piss down there, and we thought, no, hang on, he's bloody too fast for this. Tim Procell doing very nicely here and showing why he should be in Pro Class, currently P1 and still going around after 93 minutes. So won't be too far away from getting into the pits, but what these guys will be trying to do is stretch out that port. Oh, never mind. There he goes, into the pits right now. I thought they'd try, well, I don't know how much fuel's left, but they were going to try and stretch this out a little bit, because Josh Holmes, about to get in the car, is the fastest man in a Porsche that I've seen. So looking forward to watching him go about his business. But what that does do is put Liam Hamilton back into the lead of this race. So the man with the current purple lap still out there doing low 203s, absolutely smoking it. And now that everyone else is pitted, he's found himself back in a P1 and a lot of clear air. So he'll put the foot down and try and build up as much of a gap as he can, because those guys will have to pit again. Chris Taylor.
Talking about Liam Hamilton, he's going to have to pit very soon because his pit timer will not have much more time left in it.
I don't think we have a driver time on this one, Glenn. Oh, okay. Right, spot on. Good call from you, Gobby. It is 60% of the race one driver is allowed to do. Okay, right. Okay. Shows how much I know. Well done from you, Gobby. That's a very good shout. Right, so Liam Hamilton has probably short-fueled for this stint then. He's got another 15 minutes of driving time that he's allowed to perform. So he's put 15 minutes of fuel in the car. He's going out there and doing some wet fruit bowl laps, really, at this point. He's going to be out there smashing in some... I wonder, actually, if he didn't change tyres would have been the best bet, because I don't know if the... is it... I should know the bloody rules as a broadcaster. Is it fixed pit time, or would they have done a splash and dash and got out of the pit lane super fast? It is not fixed pit time. So they've probably gone in there, not changed driver, not changed tyres, and done a splash dash of 15. So what they've basically done is cut that pit stop down to a time of probably 7 seconds or thereabouts and got right back out onto track as soon as possible. So whilst we're not going to see him do barnstorming 202 zeros like he was doing on fresh tyres, he's still down there in the low 203s, still the fastest man on track. And once he comes into pits, he'll have put that car in a very, very strong position even after doing an additional stop. Very nice drive here in the first stint. Well, first stint and a half from Liam Hamilton. Look at that Pixel Racers livery. God, that's gorgeous. Absolute banger. I gotta get the sponsors changed over. I don't work for Young Guns anymore. Or old Cricky. I keep making him do extra work just because I keep changing my job.
I'm surprised there isn't any Subway sponsorship on it.
No, I didn't know if I'd get away with that. I don't know. It's lucky that I do it on my stream. So I just didn't want anyone from Subway coming down and saying, hang on, we didn't give you permission to use that. It's good. Look, if I had my way, there'd be a footlong on there for sure. On rye bread. Yes. Oh, God, I'm hungry now. I've done that. Hour and a half to go. I might go and make myself a coffee in the next hour and a half and see me way through the rest of this because I haven't had a lot of food tonight. I'm still a bit hungry. I'm starting to talk to myself now, getting a little bit crazy. So this race has just sort of developed into this pit stop phase where everyone's just coming out in different sorts of gaps. There's no real battle to watch, although Kafil Slade and P10 right up behind P Boxall is probably one to keep an eye on. And Scotty Rockford as well, and P15 behind P14. There's actually a couple of little battles back through the field there. But I am, as I said, more interested in what's going on with these pit stops, because once they shake out, I think the Porsches are going to be in really strong positions coming towards the end of this race. But it is interesting to see a couple of cars managing to make it, especially the Ford of, as I said, Curtis and Monks. That'll be one that I'm keeping a close eye on. And that M-Class leader, Jensen, managing to stretch that Bentley out is very impressive. So yeah, a couple of these pit stops really shaking up the order here in terms of finishing position. This is really getting a little bit tasty here. Speaking of tasty, look at that KFC livery. Oh, Boxy's gone really deep here. Oh, no, he's got it all crossed up into the braking zone. And he's managed to hang on to that beautifully and pull it back on a track. That's a nice bit of driving there, but goodness gracious, he didn't get that braking zone right at all. It looked like he might have tickled the outside curb under brakes. And in these conditions, that is a one-way trip to a death sentence. But as I said, he's managed to pull that up nicely. He got all four wheels sideways, which wiped off a bunch of speed. And once he hit the sand trap, he's managed to catch that beautifully. But goodness gracious, that could have been much worse if he wasn't as talented as a driver he is. Kafil Slade saying, thank you very much, up into P9 he goes. And the other Pixel Racers here, the other Pixel Racers entry in the Nissan is being driven by Mark Witchell at the moment. And they too under a fair bit of pressure from behind, this time from Scott Rochford in the McLaren, who's still in the car, interestingly enough. I'm pretty sure he started, oh no, maybe I watched him qualify. Have they done a driver swap? Or are they doing the same thing potentially that Hamilton are and just doing a little splash dash here? I wouldn't mind getting the answer to that one. I think we're going to. But anyway, in the meantime, down the inside here into the hairpin, beautifully done. Scott Rochford holding the inside line. Wicho just going a little bit wide there in the Nissan. And Scotty getting that move done nice and cleanly up here into the Schumacher S's. Very tidy move. Go, Gobby. Tell me your thoughts.
I can confirm they have done a driver swap because Scott Rochford was in my chat earlier just sending me copy pastas. So they have done a driver swap.
And he was sending copy pastas?
Yes, he was.
Wow. Didn't realise he'd stoop to that level. Come on, Scott, get your shit together. Come on, Annie, we don't do that. That's for the children. Leave that to the children. We don't do that crap. Oh, Wicho under immense pressure from that Mercedes there. Just one spot back from this. Who's that? Ah, it's Squirrels. He's got, I think Pudley's not far behind there too either. So this is a bit of a three-way battle going on here. Pudley is incredibly fast in that Porsche. So keep an eye on him. In fact, what has happened there? Because he's in the car with Carlos, isn't he? Cook, Holmes, Babb, Pickford. Oh, no, Pickford. No, sorry. Pickford is in with Carl Johnson. And Pete Chalmers is in with Pete Viney. No, I thought Chalmers and Johnson were together. But no, that's not the case, because otherwise they've fallen right back through the field. But that's not the case. So it's all good. Play on. No, he's back here in a battle with, Squirrels and Wicho. So this is a little three-way battle here for the Pro-Am P4 position. Apologies, Pro-Am P5 position that is currently held by Wicho. And yeah, Squirrels here in the Mercedes. And I don't know if these guys are pitted either. Mercedes obviously very capable of going long in an ulterior fuel map. So these guys definitely doing a one-stop, but this is a very, very long drive for Squirrels now. An hour and 20 minutes to go. Don't know who the other driver is in that car, but they're going along very nicely here in P16. Having a tough old time here trying to find their way through the wide arse of this GTR. Oh, a little bit wide there from Wichel. He's managed to keep it on the road, but had to take a lot of speed off of the Nissan to try and keep it at the apex. He's done nicely there, really, to keep that on track and hold the inside line, defend from Squirrels, who's now got a nice run. Don't know if he's going to have it in him to send it up the inside here. He certainly hasn't got the overlap, so it'd be silly to go up there. He does not have a crack at it. Right, so they are not far away from another pit stop, this Mercedes, so currently running on much lower fuel than Wicho, which would make this move down here into turn one much more understandable. Running slightly different strategies. The Mercedes definitely with the legs gets it done nice and easy. Wicho probably just opening the door and allowing that to happen. Know that they're running on different strategies. Very smart move there from Wicho, just running his own race at the moment. Hello to you, Diabols. Very nice stint from you. How did you go, mate? It was it's interesting watching you go about it, because we didn't think the Ford was capable of doing the one stop, but then Toto came and jumped in and he said, no, we're going for it. We watched a couple of other Fords drive around in map 2 and not quite make it, but you guys have managed to get it done. So obviously another very long and experienced driver is Ben Curtis, and just drove very smoothly in that first stint. So every time we watched him, he was just going along nicely, and they've managed to stretch it out. And the Ford doing a one-stop is something I never would have thought I'd see ever, but they've got it done. It's nice work to you, Diabols. Happy to see you in chat. Happy Saturday evening to you. I'll tell you who else. Tell you who else I'm happy to see in chat. Speaking of copy pasta, Ding Donk has arrived. Oh no, now we're in trouble.
The king of copy pastas himself.
The king of copy pastas. 77777777777. Hello, Chris. Happy Saturday evening to you, my friend. Woodley just starting to wind up this Porsche now. He watched the Mercedes get it done pretty comfortably on the last lap, so he'd just be biding his time here, I think. Not looking to send it up through the chicane here. He'll just be trying to get a nice exit out of the chicane, be up nice and close, and tell you, he's very, very tight into that last corner. He didn't open up that apex at all, and I think that's going to compromise what would have been a nice exit from the Porsche, but he just hasn't got the legs out of there because of how tight his entry was. I'm not sure why he did that. It wasn't like he was going to make a move. Maybe he was just looking to pressure the mirrors of Mark Witchell into the last corner there, but it really, it's pretty hard to throw Witcho off. He's very tidy. He's a very, very experienced driver, so never really going to get into Witcho's mirrors and make a move that way. But yeah, I think if Pudley just opens up that last corner and takes his normal line, the Porsche is going to get such a nice run out of there and should have no trouble really, at least getting up alongside the Nissan. Probably run out of legs towards the end of the straight, but should still have overlap based on the exit he got. So we'll see how he goes on the next lap. So Diopol's making an interesting point there. The plan was never to one-stop. So it was just until about 30 minutes to go, or 30 minutes in, either one of the two, where they sort of made the decision on the fly and thought, you know what, I reckon I can do this, because, you know, as Gobby and John have both pointed out so astutely, the conditions are playing into the fuel saving. So a lot of these drivers, and Diopol's, you know, is the first to sort of come out and admit that there was never really a plan for the one stop here for a lot of these cars that aren't Porsches, but they've just sort of managed to make it work on the fly. So some really good heads up brain work there from the trust, especially in the Ford. But as I said, now that Nathan Monks is in the car, goodness gracious, that man goes fast. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what sort of stint he can have. Oh boy. Oh boy, no, that's not it. That's not the line, Pudley. That's not it. In fact, that's now going to get him lapped. I don't know if that's Johnson still in the car, but that's the GIO McLaren coming through, now being driven by Connor Hind. Goodness gracious, that man's fast. That is not very interesting. Sorry, not very often that I see him in a Ford. Not in a Ford. Goodness gracious, I am struggling with my words now. Connor Hind not in a Ford is not something I see every day. But now he's cruising along up here in P3. That's the man you want behind the wheel for your last stint. So that's an interesting watch too. Can he pull in 2.5 seconds to Austin McNeil, who kind of surprised us in qualifying with his lap? Sort of demonstrating that Lambo is pretty strong in the wet. Not as strong as Liam Hamilton, who is still in the low 203s and is now 36.6 seconds clear of Austin McNeil in the 724 Lambo. So Hamilton is having a day out in that Aston Martin. Christ almighty, he's going fast, and he just keeps going faster as they wrangle their way past the Pixel Racers Nissan, and the Nissan having to get way off throttle there. That's going to make it very interesting as they come up through the Schumacher S here. I reckon that'll just invite Pudley back in behind the Nissan there, and we'll get on board with that shortly, because Wicho's going to be under a bit of pressure as they come back into the last sector here. Pudley, after that massive error through the final chicane on the last lap, dropped about 1.5 seconds and had to let the blue flag through. But now that blue flag's done and dusted, Connor's on his way. This battle is going to heat up again. As long as Pudley gets this last chicane right, doesn't make an absolute dick of himself like he did on the last lap, that's a bit better. But again, look at the line he's taking into the last corner. Open up the track, Pudley! What is he doing? What is he doing in that last corner? Someone go and get in his ear. He's still got a nice punch out of that last corner. No, he's not got enough legs to get past the Nissan. Look at that. GTR power! See you later. But I don't know why Pudley looks like he's going to drive into the friggin' pit lane before it takes the last corner. What are you doing, Pete?
he might be feeling the pressures from Nathan Monks behind him as well. So maybe he's trying to defend him. I am not sure, but yeah, it's very sketchy.
Oh, it's bloody well spotted. That's a good call from you. Toto's right there, isn't he? He's just come out of nowhere. Diabols is all over it. He said it's been coming for a while, and obviously you've been watching his progress, but I've been so entrenched in giving Pete shit that I didn't realise Nathan Marks is right up there behind him, turning this into a three-way battle. So yeah, Toto's going to be super fast here. Toto's so good in this forward. He's going to make absolute mincemeat of Pudley if he keeps driving around like he has in that last sector.
I can confirm Toto is a forward enjoyer himself. He switched halfway through sprints just because Paul Ricard was on the calendar, and he only wants to drive the forward for Paul Ricard.
It's so broken there, isn't it? Yeah, any car, any track with a nice long straight, doesn't matter how much bloody extra weight the BOP puts on there. Oh, a little bit wide there again from Wicho, and this time, having gone so far off track that he's actually going to lose 2 positions here, Wicho. And he's just opened the door there for Toto, really pretty cleverly. I don't think he's got much pace to hang on to that spot after Nathan makes his way, after Pudley made his way through. So he thought, you know what, I'll let Toto have this as well. So, a couple of errors going into the Michelin curve there over the last couple of laps from Wicho has just eventually allowed Pudley through. But now, as I said, Pudley's really got Nathan Monks for company and his beloved forward here. So this will be one to watch for a little bit. Hello, Saxon. I nearly introduced myself as Peter Slythe tonight. I thought you would have enjoyed that. But you weren't here, so it wouldn't have mattered. But I nearly brought myself in as Peter Slythe. God, that would be funny. That's one of my best moves, by the way. Do you know how patient I had to be? Do you know how much I had to bite my tongue not to let that out early? Oh, I had some fun with that last week. I was on fire last week. Oh, Pudley, that's wide there too. He's going to really compromise his exit out here. Toto's got a nice line happening. He's going to get a nice run. But the Porsche, so nice out of slow corners, is able to sort of correct the mistake. So he hangs on for now. Does Pete Chalmers, but just sort of feels like a bit of inevitability here, as Nathan Monks is one very fast operator. Further up in the field, all the gaps have sort of dropped off to about a 1 to 2 second gap. There's a big 20-second gap between Lee and Hind, so not a lot going on up the front, so we are just focused on this battle here with Toto still trying to make his way through Pete Chalmers, although keep an eye on the delta between McNeil and Hind, which currently sits at 9/10. Hind has been going along about 4/10 a lap quicker than McNeil. So whilst we have got our eyes here, I don't know if we can get a camera too, just pointed up the front there, because that one there is going to spice up in the next lap or two, and I wouldn't want to miss that, because those two also very good friends, Connor Hind and Austin McNeil. But here's a nice run. Just nowhere to get it done into this final chicane. Only the very boldest and very bravest, a la Liam Hamilton, have had a crack at that tonight in these conditions. Nathan not close enough on that occasion, and then look at the Porsche. Look at that, out of the last corner, just says see you later. Absolutely digs its heels in and just takes off. So whilst the Ford does make up a lot of time as they get past the pit lane towards the end of this straight, it just doesn't have anywhere near enough to make up for that exit that the Porsche gets out of the last corner.
Especially, that's where the Porsche is very strong, is in the corners and on corner exits. You don't really have the straights to take advantage of a slipstream on this track. So where Nathan Monks has to pass is where the Porsche is really strong, and the wet does not help the Mustang in this situation.
Yep. Yeah, you're spot on. Which is, yeah, it's why the BOP doesn't quite work in wet conditions. It's a lot of the different strengths and weaknesses of cars are a lot different when the track is dry. So it does make BOP very hard to use in these conditions because the Porsche just gets such a massive advantage in these conditions out of slow corners, and the Aston overall in these conditions is just an absolute weapon. So like you go to Zolder, for example, where the Aston is minus 16, and that's probably fair enough in the dry. It really does struggle over the chicanes, but you get the Aston at Zolder in the wet and it just turns into an absolute weapon. And it being minus 16 is almost a little unfair. So these conditions really do shake up the BOP. Liam Hamilton has finally jumped out of the car. He's had an absolutely mega first hour and a half. Toto here through the last chicane. Apologies, I thought there was just going to be a bit of action there as we were discussing Liam Hamilton's first stint, which was incredibly mega. He has jumped out and now replaced himself with Shawnee Bubnow, who is another driver like Tim Procell, who's just managed to sneak around to Silver Class for a couple of years, but just deserving of the Pro Badge. So Bubnow, a very fast driver of his own accord, now in P5, 4 seconds behind Josh Holmes in P4. And Josh Holmes obviously not stopping again. And Bubnow now having not the need to stop again. That's going to be an interesting battle there.
I've just been told by my teammate that he's already on 3 warnings.
Good Lord. Come on, John. Imagine handing your car over with 3 warnings. Who would do that? I used to do that a lot.
I just hope he doesn't get another one, but that's just gonna make it a bit more difficult.
Where's he getting him, do you know? Is it the outside of turn 3 or somewhere else?
All of them on Mercedes Arena.
Yeah.
He keeps touching that green AstroTurf we were talking about earlier, and he just spins out and goes off track, and it gives him a warning.
So is that the exit of turn 2, or as he comes out of the arena at the exit of turn 4? Very easy to pick them up in the dry or the wet at the exit of turn 4 there. But you can also get them outside turn 2, but you got to be going bloody fast. But yeah, I'm sure he's not the only driver out there who've picked up a few warnings. But yeah, picking up 3 in the first, how long's he been in the car? Like half an hour? That's a good effort. That's going to make this next hour or so very tight and tense for both himself. And are you planning on getting back in the car?
Yes, at the 48-minute mark, I should be getting back in and finishing the stint.
Right, well, if I were him, I wouldn't get any more warnings, and I'd just make you drive around for the last 48 minutes with those 3 warnings. And then if you get a drive-through, then it's clearly your fault.
Let's hope it doesn't happen.
Where is Toto going here? Oh, I thought he was going to have a little play around the outside. We watched him disappear from the back of Pudley's Porsche, which meant that he'd sort of got enough overlap that he was hanging around the outside there of turn 2, but just didn't quite get the traction down. The Porsche obviously super capable in these low traction zones, defending nicely as Pete Chalmers at the moment. He's really got his shit together in the last couple of laps. After a couple of real stinkers there, he's really managed to pull his head in and is defending very nicely here from Nathan Marks at the moment. And over there on, there's Gobby in camera 2. He's getting lapped at the moment by, this is Connor Hind chasing around Austin McNeil for the lead of this race. Connor Hind with a 2:02.5 on the last lap is only half a second off the very best lap that we've seen in this race, performed by an Aston Martin. So you can see the amount of handwork going into the front axle of that McLaren. Connor Hind is having an absolute ball out there, and he does going fast, but he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to find his way through the Lambo of Austin McNeil, who we've already discussed is having an absolute ripper of a night. He's in good form too, is Austin McNeil. Across multiple sims, he's been driving very quickly in the LMU series. Le Mans Ultimate, obviously a new game that we're dipping our toes into across the sim racing scene. And whilst there are a few pressing issues, like the fact that we're running on European servers, the game itself is really starting to light it up. Everyone reporting the cars are starting to feel good. The game itself looks pretty good. So a lot of fun being had in the Le Mans Ultimate scene at the moment. And as I said, Austin McNeil is very much near the top of the tree early doors. He's very fast in both the Hypers and the GT3s. But anytime he comes back here in his beloved Lambo, he shows why he's fast. He's just so good behind the wheel of that Lambo. I think we were discussing Slade versus Bolt for the lead of the Pro-Ams, but I don't know if that was a move that's already happened. I think Slade has passed Bolt. Yeah, Slade's last lap was a 2:02.8. Bolt's was a 2:04.8. So I think we may have just missed that one. Oh, this is Connor Hind around the outside of the hairpin. And he's not going to get it done. There's no grip out there. So whilst you can certainly get up alongside and maybe hang on for half of the apex, once you get past the halfway point of that corner, you're really going to drop off. Oh, Austin's made a massive error through the Schumacher S's. He's gone and absolutely cooked it. And Connor Hind says thank you very much. He's been putting the pressure on over the last couple of laps, and it's paid off for him big time there as Austin McNeil came a cropper and the Schumacher S's up into P1 for Connor Hind and back to P2 for Austin McNeil. And wastes no time at all pulling out a gap. Look at that, out to 2.1 seconds already. That's obviously a massive error there from Austin McNeil, and it's really shaken him up because I don't think Connor Hind's gone particularly fast throughout the rest. It was a 2:03.1, so not his fastest lap by any stretch. But Austin McNeil with a 2:06.1 has really lost a massive chunk of time and potentially a bit of confidence as well after letting Connor through. So already out to a 2.5 second gap now. So Connor Hind says thanks very much. And into the lead of this race he goes. Nathan Monk's still filling the mirrors of this Porsche. He really is struggling to find a way past, as Gobby rightly pointed out before. The Ford unable to use its biggest strength simply because the Porsche gets such a nice run out of the last corner. So he really is waiting for Pete Chalmers to make a sort of mistake here so that he can find his way through. But as I said earlier, Pete Chalmers got in the car and felt a little bit uncomfortable in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of this stint, but since then has really put the hammer down and is driving beautifully smooth at the moment, hitting every apex and you know, avoiding these outside curbs nicely. He's just driving along beautifully at the moment. So whilst it was a sketchy bit of a start, he's really sorted that shit out and he's got it going along nicely now. And Nathan's just going to have to be he's going to have to be very clever. The thing that Toto's got to be worried about too is obviously the fuel saving in the Ford. So he'd love to be in clean air right now and just really being able to focus on that fuel per lap number. But at the moment, as I said, he's probably more focused on trying to get through Pete Chalmers here. And to do that, he might be using just a touch more fuel. Obviously, he's not focused on the fuel per lap number. He's more focused on the back of this Porsche. And he might just be giving that throttle an extra touch here or there, trying to get this move done. So he's just got to be careful that he doesn't, you know, make a meal of, you know, these first 40 or so minutes, because if he does use too much fuel, it's going to obviously make them do an extra pit stop, and that's, you know, suboptimal.
Especially when they've been fuel saving, obviously. If you have to do another pit stop, the fuel saving was for nothing, and they could have just been further up the field anyways.
He looks really strong through that first sector, does Nathan Monks. He looks like he's hitting every apex cleanly. He's getting nice drive out of the corners. He looks as quick as the Porsche through that first sector. And as I said, that is well and truly saying something, because the strength of the Porsche is slow corners, slow, windy corners, and it should be really strong in these conditions through that first sector, the Porsche. So the fact that Nathan's not just staying with him, but sort of threatening the back of the Porsche. We saw before how he had, you know, a massive run around the outside. He's got plenty of overlap. There's a couple of times where he's been right underneath the bumper of the Porsche in that first sector. So, oh, speaking of Porsche, there's a bit of Porsche on Porsche action going on here. That's Mike Pickford, who's just had a bit of an error coming through the first sector there, and he's going to have to open that door. In fact, he's gone really deep down in the hairpin here, and that's allowed Brad Cook to go through. So that was the car being driven by Carl Johnson in the first stint. Now Mick Pickford in the car, and yeah, just opened the door there for Brad Cook to go on through. So hopefully you can figure that out. I'm not sure I've seen Pickers do too much in the Porsche. It's more of a front engine type man. Very happy behind the wheel of some of the front engine cars.
As we see this battle happening, they are catching traffic, so this could get very interesting within the next lap or two.
Bit of blue flag traffic, I reckon. Wouldn't it be interesting if they sent it down the inside of John Gormley and John had to run wide and got himself a track cut? Oh, no.
I would rather not. I'm communicating with him, just letting him know that they're closing in on him, and just to get ready to move out the way. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
You can hope by yourself. I'm all for it. Tell you what, the timing board's starting to really light up with different purples and greens and stuff. There's a couple of red times out there from drivers just struggling to pick up the conditions as they start off their stint. But Holmes, Hind, Bubnow, some real fast times on the board over the last couple of laps. So, and especially Hind, as I said, 2022, the fastest man on track. Last lap by some margin, is now 5 seconds clear in the lead of this race. So really putting in a good stint here is Connor Hind. As Pudley and Nathan Monks make their way through a bit of traffic there. As I said, John Gormley in that very beaten up looking forward. But yeah, as we come to understand, that's just a visual bug thanks to ACC. That Ford is not actually damaged. So that's just a visual one. So into the final hour now. We are 2 hours down. And as we discussed, currently Connor Hind in the lead of the race overall and pro class, being followed by Austin McNeil in the 724 Lamborghini and Lee in the Rockets Evolve 111 car. So that's your top three. They do have Josh Holmes for company as well in P4. He's only 2 seconds back from Lee. So that podium spot still hotly contested. And then in the Pro-Am class, we saw Kafil Slade get one. Well, we didn't see it, unfortunately. We missed it. Sorry, apologies to you, KFC boys. Kafil sneaking past Bolt. I'm sure he did that cleanly. And Fakuri in the 420 McLaren. Those guys had a penalty earlier on, a 10-second for causing a collision. So that's going to drop them sort of back through the field a bit. I'm actually just looking. No, actually, the gap from them to Rockford is about 30 seconds. So that 10-second penalty, regardless of whether it's served in the pit or at the end of this race, isn't actually going to cost them the Pro-Am P3. So that's not too bad for them. And then in AM class, what a performance from the Brickley-driven Bentley. Jensen in the first stint, stretching out the tank all the way to the halfway mark and giving these guys the opportunity to go for the one-stop here. And considering, as I said, the M-Class guys would have started around about P23, 22. Just incredible to see them now up in P13 overall. And on for a really strong overall position here, regardless of, bugger the fact that they are so far clear of P2 and P3. In AM-Class, you can see Gormley in 23rd and Winton in 24th. Overall, they're AM-Class 2 and 3. So these guys qualified as AM-Class drivers, and, their qualifying pace, rightly so, as AM-Class drivers put them right near the front. I think it was P2 in AM-Class. The Miller Porsche was P1, and then these guys were P2 in AM-Class. So it's not like they qualified far and above where they were supposed to be. This is just superior strategy and clean and consistent driving from Jensen in particular in that first stint, but now Brickley backing it up here in this second stint. The KA Motorsport Koala boys really putting on a good show here tonight. So hopefully they can finish this one off in style.
All right, JC, I'm going to get ready to jump back in the car. Was lovely being in the comms box today. Was not expecting to be here, but thanks to Loop D's amazing planning, I just volunteered as last second, but I'll give you John back in approximately 3 minutes.
Oh, good, mate. Very lovely to have you up in here with us. Join us again, won't you? And we'll probably get John back up. Having you and John in here together, goodness gracious, what a trip that would be. I don't know if we'd have to put a bloody M, maybe even R sticker on that stream, because you two would go off your tree. But anyway, have fun in your last stint. Looking forward to watching how you go about it. And for God's sake, don't get yourself a drive-through, because if you do, it's all your fault, not John.
Let's hope not. Thank you for having me. Have a good one, guys.
Tim Gobe, ladies and gentlemen, driving around in the 138 Ford. As we said, currently P23 overall, so we'll see them jump back into the pit lane shortly. Put Gobby back in the car. Speaking of pit lane, we've just seen the KFC Audi go for a quick pit stop. So Saxon's in chat now. Can you tell me why we did another pit stop? Was that scheduled? Was that planned? Because now we're back behind Bolt. So did we just do a very short stint because we had low fuel? Yeah, I'm struggling to piece together why we've pitted again there. Because, yeah, if you're going to go for a splash dash, you wouldn't change drivers, which is what you did. I don't know. The stewards are having a nap, apparently. Which is fair enough. As you said, the drivers are doing very nicely out here. It's been really good, even with the small amount of penalties that we've had. Some of the driving, some of the racing that we've seen from these drivers has been particularly entertaining tonight. On a track that's notoriously difficult to overtake, we've seen plenty of drivers give it a red-hot crack. And, plenty of space given, plenty of two-person overtakes going on. Really classy stuff, especially in these conditions. Obviously, it's really tricky to get anything done in these sorts of conditions when you're under the pressure. You've got all the spray happening, the brake markers are different, the curbs are all treacherous. It can be really tough to get moves done in these sorts of conditions, but the quality of drivers here in Octane Online Racing is just second to none, and that's why we're seeing such an entertaining race tonight. So, as I said, the steward's having a bit of a nap because they've just cleaned it all up, and as I said, we had a few incidences early on, but they were all looked after pretty comfortably, and since then, it's just been Bob's your uncle. But yeah, anyway, as we're discussing, Kafil Slade here, just coming out of the pit lane with 47 minutes to go. So obviously no more stops to do. But just going for the split his time in half strategy. So it definitely is an alternate strategy that a lot of the other drivers haven't picked up. We have seen splash and dashes. Obviously, the Hamilton Torres entry currently being driven by Bub now went for the splash dash. Hamilton drove a very long first stint and then came in, didn't swap drivers, splash dash, didn't change tyres, and ended up doing like a 15-second pit stop, getting back out there, and then running his stint timer to the end before putting Bub now back in the car. So that's one of the strategies that we've seen from the two-stop guys. And then obviously we've seen a lot of cars. Obviously the Porsches are all doing one-stops, that's known. But a couple of other cars managing to make it to the 90-minute mark, also doing one-stops. A couple of the Fords, Ben Curtis-Diebold, Nathan Monks in the 83 Ford, currently in P16. They've managed to do a one-stop. So as long as Toto can manage his fuel, they're going to be comfortably making it home. We discussed earlier Brickley and the 187 Bentley also doing the same thing. So there is lots of different strategy here this evening. But yeah, this KFC Audi certainly pulling one out of the bag here in an effort to try and claim the Pro-Am victory here this evening, but they have put themselves back into P3 in Pro-Am after being in P1. So a lot of work to do here for Kafil over the next 45 minutes, but goodness gracious, this is a very fast driver. Kafil, especially on his day. I don't know how much he's done in the Audi, but he's very, very fast as he gets through. Oh, the GIO McLaren. Hello, that was Connor Hind in the background there, who's facing sideways. Ooh, drama. So that's going to really reduce the gap now. In fact, he has dropped behind. Austin McNeil's gone through. Austin McNeil is in P1. And Connor Hind, after making an error somewhere in, I don't know, again, I only just saw him facing sideways, so I won't judge what's happened too soon. I don't know whether he came up to a blue flag and had an accident, or he's just made a mule of it himself. I don't know what's happened there, but I just saw him facing the wrong way. And that has brought Austin McNeil back into the lead of the race. Hello. Just when we thought this had sort of petered out a little bit and some of the gaps were starting to stretch out a little bit and we might just sort of have a nap towards the end of this race, it's really just gone and turned itself on its head again. So wouldn't mind. Can't wait to have a look at the replay. There's a couple of little sneakies in the pit lane saying there's just too much white line, too much of the outside curb. And that treacherous curb on the outside of turn 2 may have claimed itself another victim, and one of the very fastest, most cleanest victims you could find in Connor Hind. So we've seen a few of the AM class and the Pro-Am class drivers make errors out there today, but you don't see Connor Hind make too many errors. So here's your replay in the chase cam. And just a nice exit there, and a little bit squirrely on the exit. Oh, he's just braked on the curb. He has braked on that outside curb, and the rear end has just departed on him. And there goes Austin McNeil back into the lead of the race through there. He just waves him on through.
Yeah, I'm back. I just saw Hines spin out on the track map just as I was pitting driver swapping with Tim. What happened?
Don Gormley returning to the pit, to the commentary box, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Yeah, he was just out to a nice little 4-second buffer and going along beautifully, putting in purple lap after purple lap. But yeah, just coming outside of turn 2 there. It wasn't on the exit of turn 2. He was sort of setting himself up in the braking zone for turn 3. It just braked on the curb. The rear tires locked up immediately and just went ice skating. And he just sort of backed himself into turn 3. And yeah, Austin McNeil back up into P1 now with a nice little buffer too, 2.2 seconds. So Connor Hind, yeah, probably 2-3 tenths quicker than Austin. But as, yeah, nice little gap there of 2.2 seconds. He's got a lot of work to do to get the lead back. How was your stint, John? I heard you're a little bit naughty. You might have picked yourself up a few track cuts along the way.
Now, I just want to say what happened to Connor Hind may or may not have happened to me. And if you decide to lose it by going on the curb between turn 2 and turn 3, if you slide a little bit, you slide fast and you gain time. And so I've picked up 3 track cuts from that one corner. So now Tim has to drive with the threat of a DT hanging over his head. And man, I feel so bad for my teammate. I hopped in the first lap. I did no wet practice. And I'm just like, wow, I suck. I am letting him down.
That's all right. I've already thrown him under the bus. I said if he gets a drive through, it's his fault.
Yeah, his fault for being teammates with me. So how's it been? Wow, Brickley, P1M, surely he's got a pit soon, because that is incredibly impressive, if not.
Jensen managed to make it to the 91-minute mark on the tank of the Bentley. So they are going for the one stop, and assuming Brickley can replicate Jensen's first stint. As I said, Jensen made it all the way to the halfway mark. So assuming he can perform the same fuel saving that Jensen did, they are doing a one-stop, and they are rightfully in P12. And based on, a couple of the other cars having to stop again, like we're just talking about Bolt in P8, he'll have to stop again. Boxall, I'm almost certain, will have to stop again because Yoda stopped probably 8-9 minutes shy of the halfway mark, so he's probably going to have to stop again. Babby won't because he's in the Porsche. Kafil Slade won't. We've just discussed him and their strategy and how they've now stopped twice, so they're not stopping again. But Brickley, honestly, Brickley and Jensen, if they can keep this reasonable pace up, Jensen's pace was really good, and Brickley's last lap was a 2:04.4. So if they can keep that up, they are honestly on for a top 10 here, which would be drive of the season so far. I know we're early on, it's only the start of March, but that is a really strong first stint from Jensen. And as I said, all Brickley has to do now is keep humming around in these mid-04s. And, obviously he's got to do the same fuel saving that Jensen was doing. There's a man in the pit lane, David Marsh, suggesting in the KA Motorsport Garage that he is going to be very tight. But Jensen was very tight too. Like, he literally crossed the line with 1 lap of fuel to go and then pulled into the pit lane with, I'm sure, what was less than a litre. So it is incredibly tight, the strategy that they're running. But as I said, Jensen did it, and he pitted. Brickley would have come out of the pit lane with about 2 or 3 minutes extra in terms of what Jensen did, because he crossed the line, did the last lap after the 90-minute mark. So Brickley's probably got a slight bit of breathing room, but goodness gracious. I mean, as I said, what a strong performance it's been so far, both in qualifying and in the first stint from Jensen. And now, as I said, Brickley's just backed this up. He's kept his nose clean. He's been driving around smoothly. He's not involved in anything. There's no yellow flags. So going along beautifully at the moment. And, as I said, that position there, John, is legit.
Rightly earned, and just a giga strat and amazing teamwork. Unfortunately, I messed up so many times. But that doesn't matter anymore, because I'm going to forget about it. And I'm going to focus on everybody else now.
No, that's it. Your race is done. Now you just kick back and blame everything on Gobby when it all goes astray. Back in P15, Rochford is chasing around Nathan Monks. We're watching Nathan Monks put the pressure on Pete Chalmers earlier, but this is Toto now having dropped right off the back of Pudley, and Pudley's just got himself a nice little bit of breathing room. And as I said, Toto's now really, truly back in the clutches of Scott Rochford in that beautiful black Kovacs McLaren. So not sure whether Toto's right back into fuel-saving mode now, and Diabols is in chat, so he will let us know. But as I said, Nathan was well and truly under the bumper of Pete Chalmers before, and I thought maybe at the time he was just probably pushing a little bit too hard for their fuel-saving stat to work. So I think what's happened is now that he hasn't been able to find a way past Pete Chalmers, Diabols has just had to put the leash on him and say, hang on, slow the hell down, mate, because we're going to run out of fuel here and cost ourselves a whole other pit stop. So, yeah, as I said, Toto now back in fuel-saving mode, I think, and that's brought him back into the clutches of Scott Rochford, who had to let through, he's had to let through the Porsche there of, I think that's Cookie, going through, the 17 Porsche of Cook going through there from P6. But now that he's disposed of both of them, Rochford and Nathan Monks here will be in a battle here.
You know, this is a little off subject, but I just realized I'm surprised nobody took the Honda, because Suzuka, that's probably a good Honda map. This is probably a good Honda map.
Nope.
Not sure about the... Really?
No, Honda's crap. Get stuffed. I'm not even going to talk about the Honda. The Honda's really strong in the wet, but the Honda's an absolute pig to drive everywhere. And I don't know how they drive it. Cookie makes it look easy. Chris Taylor and Bub now in the Bathurst, they made it look easy. I took their setup around Bathurst and for like 6-7 laps, and I was like, this is impossible. Like, what the hell? It is impossible to drive. It's so hard to drive now. It used to be a really nice car. Me, Yoda, and Gibbo ran it for 2 whole endurance seasons. Like, it used to be really nice. Now it's just impossible to drive well. Like, it goes fast if you can make it work, but for God's sake, it's so hard to drive. You couldn't pay me to drive it now. No, sorry.
Well, it doesn't sound like a car issue, but, you know... No.
Get back up the front, Glenn, because we've got Connor Hind right back underneath the bumper of Austin McNeil for the lead of this race. Connor, after having a bit of an incident before, we watched him turn it around, has now really, truly reeled him in and is threatening the back of this Lambo all over again. So this is one to watch here. Josh Holmes also on the back of A. Lee for P3 overall. So there's a couple of battles starting to develop across the track now. But that one there that we were watching, we're going to go back there because I think Connor had a nice bloody run and he's not going to get it done in the chicane. But, oh, geez, he's very close though. He probably had a look and he backed out of it through the last corner. Austin's going to hang on for one more lap here, but I wonder how the McLaren gets out of this last corner because it is very nice in second gear and it looks like he has got a nice run here. So the slipstream hopefully going to give him a nice... He's going to have a look down the inside. He's going to brake late. He's a very late braker, is Connor Hind, but doesn't get the overlap. Austin just forced a little bit wide, though. Oh, he's definitely threatening. This is definitely one to watch here. Connor Hind is probably 2/10 faster than Austin on track at the moment. But again, we've discussed all night, John, how hard this track is to pass at.
Yeah, I didn't pass anybody. In fact, I was getting passed constantly. Well, blue flags and also just me spinning out. But another thing is, what worries me, and I'm not a good racer yet, but if Connor keeps placing his car just slightly in front of the rear wheels, McNeil's going to have to give him a little room, and that's just going to make him lose time.
Who are they losing time to? Yeah, Lee and P3 15 seconds behind, so I don't see that gap closing up. Down the inside of the hairpin, bang! Oh, he's gone deep though. Oh, there's one for the stewards to have a look at. Connor Hind has just barged his way through there. And for mine, at first glance, there is a cheeky little invoice on the way there for Connor Hind because he did not make that apex. And he made contact with the side panels of Austin McNeil's Lamborghini on his way through. So, again, just at first glance, that looked like a penalty. But, again, not going to put my steward's hat on too strictly because they will go and have a very red-hot look at that. But Connor, just for mine, a little bit too aggressive on that move down there and is going to hang on to P1. So, obviously, we don't redress here in OOR because you're going to get a penalty regardless. So we do ask the drivers to not redress unless it's obviously super egregious. And we're not saying there's obviously anything wrong with redressing. You certainly can if you feel, but it's recommended that you don't redress because redressing will not reduce the severity of any penalty that you receive. So it's basically better to just carry on and just cop the penalty, but see if you can pull it. Oh, I think he's going to potentially on this occasion. I think he's decided, you know what? I've made a poor move there, and he has redressed the position. But as I said, I don't think that will lighten any penalty that he gets from the stewards because they'll probably still put their hat on there and offer him at least a 5, maybe a 10. Because, yeah, he's certainly in the wrong there. Even he knows that, as I said, that redress coming through because that move was not great down there in the hairpin.
Yeah, I'm not a steward, so I don't know what kind of penalization goes on, but there was contact. Austin did lose a bit of time, but he didn't spin. It wasn't like the first time around where it was during the first hour where he completely spun and both P1 and P2 lost a lot of time. But Connor, being a top man, gave it back. I'll take any punishment.
Yeah, he's 100% one of the best individuals in OOR. Absolute top bloke. He lives in Tasmania, which he loses points for that, but other than that, he's a very good fella. So yeah, he's gone above and beyond that, redressing that one. And Diabol's sort of suggesting that sometimes maybe the stewards will look lightly upon that and just give him a little bit of leeway there. For mine, probably still worth a 5-second penalty, that move, because if we don't penalise that, then it can just sort of creep into, it can become a bit of a grey area. We don't want grey areas in our stewards room. I think you got to kind of keep it black and white and make it a lot easier for our volunteer stewards to make those sorts of decisions. As soon as you sort of say, you know what, just on this occasion, we'll let him get away with it, I think you get yourself into a bit of trouble there and you create grey areas that make it pretty hard for our stewards. So for mine, probably still getting a cheeky penalty for that one. But as I said, that's why I sit up here and I'm a commentator, because it's much easier to commentate and talk shit than it is to make those hard calls. So we love our stewards, and they're well and truly undershouted because they don't get as much love as they should. I think that's Boxy. Boxy jumps out of there in the blue flag. Stewards are okay with that one. The most minor of taps, nobody damaged or disadvantaged, play on. So because the redress has come through, it looks like we are going to see no penalty being handed down to Connor Hines. So he is going to get another chance here to reel Austin back in and hopefully get it done a bit cleaner on the next occasion.
Yeah, I feel like a little side-by-side rubbing on a straight shouldn't warrant a penalty unless it was like detrimental to the race. But like you said, and like Matt Powell said in chat, minor of taps, nobody damaged, redressed, good sportsmanship.
Isn't Tassie New Zealand? What?
I'm a Yank. I'm a Yank, and even though I know that's wrong, you do not say that.
I'm not from Tassie or New Zealand, and I am offended. Goodness gracious, it's gonna start all sorts of shit, Stick Dead. Don't do that. Come on, Aaron, you're better than that.
Look, well, we've got opinions in here. Look, as a person, well, I should rather say, as a filthy seppo with no geological knowledge, even I know that's wrong. I wouldn't say that. I don't want any fighting.
Just on camera too here, your little camera down there, Josh Holmes on his last lap posted a 2026, which is very well and truly clear of anyone else on track. He is 4-5 tenths quicker than anyone else at the moment. So now that he's back into the rear bumpers of Lee's Audi, I don't see him going much faster than that, but he is certainly wound in this gap in camera 2, and he's going to be threatening all over the back of that Audi. So we're going to put him in camera 1 here because he's going to be very, very hotly contesting that. That's for P3, by the way, in pro class overall. So there's a battle for... Oh, no! That's the Pixel Race. That's Boxy, and the Pixel Race is forward there. He's obviously...
Good job, JC.
He's obviously got the chicane all wrong and either messed up the chicane entirely, or I think more likely has just put himself onto the outside exit curb, got on the throttle a little bit tough and spun it over towards the pit lane there. So unlucky for Boxy. He'll clean that up and keep on keeping on, but that is probably going to drop him down to... He's put in the pit lane. Oh, he's in the pit lane. So it might have been a lot of damage. Might have been a very similar incident that we saw with Tim Gobe, who sort of spun and then put it into the wall.
Oh, he had to back up too.
Although in saying that, it could also just be because those guys had to pit again anyway. So it might be just Boxy saying,
yeah,
it might just be Boxy saying, you know what, I've had a spin here, I've lost a bit of confidence, let's get the fastest driver in the team back in the car, Jacob Weatherburn. No disrespect to Paul Boxall, but Paul will certainly say and admit to the fact that Jacob's just a little bit quicker. And he'll say, Jacob, go out there, clean up my mess and try and get us back into the top 10 here. Tell you what that does do is it puts Brickley up into P11 with, as we said before, Bolt. Now, Glenn, he still hasn't pitted Bolt in that Aston Martin, so please, for the love of God, go and confirm that again, because if he doesn't have to pit, they're well and truly in a good spot here in the Pro-Am lead. But we're getting word now. Vinton has done an hour and 22. So Bolt does have to pit again. He has to pit again in the Pro-Am lead of this race at the moment, which, as I said, based on the gaps going on there between Bab, Slade and Brickley, it could be very tight anyway. It is around about 50 seconds. And the pit delta is around about 50 seconds, give or take either way. So, I don't know. You're the
Don't ask me. We're not the technical
you tell me.
guys.
I'm just relaying your information because it's making me look good. Glenn Germain, ladies and gentlemen, is in my ear constantly throughout this, and I don't know whether you guys get to hear him in YouTube land. You probably don't. I think most of the time he just hides behind here and he talks to us in our ears, and he's singing at me now. But the point is, he gives us all the very best information, and then we get to relay it. We're like, oh, look at these commentators. They're so knowledgeable. They're all over it. This is great. When really, we've got no friggin' idea what's going on up here. Glenn's watching all of this across a bunch of different cameras, and he's just giving us little tidbits in the ear. And as I said, it makes us look good.
If Bolt does have to pit, and if Brickley doesn't, Brickley might be in top 10 in an AM class.
Yeah, I think that is, as I said, I don't know whether you were here, but I think that would literally be the single best performance I've seen all year long. And as I know it's only March, but we've had the Bathurst 12 hour, we've had a bunch of sprint series races, we've had a lot of duos. Well, I say a lot. We've had, a duos race already. This has been an incredible performance from that AM class Bentley, driven by Zach Jensen and Brickley. So if they get that done and finish in the top 10, that's honestly the best drive I've seen this year. If not in, sort of the last sort of 12 months, it's been that kind of performance. So I'm all for it, and I'm hoping they get it done. Even if they don't finish top 10, just to be that far in front of their AM class competitors, when the AM class was very tightly packed in qualifying. So it's not like they are out of class. It's not like they're classed incorrectly. They've just driven that bloody well.
Yeah, because considering, I'm not sure about Jensen's pace, but Brickley in Split Red, he's Pro-Am, and he's usually faster than me by a few tenths, but he's much, much, much more consistent than me. So when he was still in AM class in Split Red, we were always battling it, fighting it, and I was just losing to him just because I wasn't fast enough.
Oh, I'll tell you who else is going very quickly at the moment is Shawnee Bubnow in that Aston Martin, a 202.6 on that last lap. He's currently in no man's land at the moment, 8 seconds behind Josh Holmes and 8 seconds clear of Brad Cook. But Bubnow in the Aston Martin that was led so very well by Liam Hamilton, just putting in some very nice laps now. So keep an eye on him towards the end of this race, challenging for that top 4 as well. We've got Josh Holmes still trying to navigate his way past the Audi in camera 2 there. But that could be a 3-way battle if Lee continues to hold up Holmes here. Those guys in the mid 202s, but they're sort of mid-high 202s, whereas Bubnow's a very low 202s. He's definitely 4 tenths quicker on that last lap than Lee. So if that continues over the next 23 minutes, that battle for P3 could literally be a 3-way battle, with Bubnow closing in quickly. But at the moment, we are entrenched in this battle. On camera 1 there, you've got the Lambo of Austin McNeil and navigating some blue flag traffic, which is really backing him into Connor Hind, who's just circling like a shark there. He's already had a couple of cracks at Austin over this race. He has been in P1. He lost it of his own accord, and then he had another crack at trying to get back into it and punted McNeil off the track, redressed the position which the stewards looked upon kindly, and is now sitting behind him in P2 again. But you'd think, given the opportunity, he's going to have another crack at getting back up into the lead of this race. And with 22 minutes to go, I don't see too many more pit stops going on inside this top 5. I think obviously Bubnow's going to make it to the end. Jolms to the end. Lee, I don't know about. Lee in the Rockets Evolved Audi, I don't know about. I think there might be one more stop there, but I might be wrong. And Heindick McNeil, I think, also going to the end here. So the top 5 pretty much sorted out in terms of pit stops, but in terms of position on track, still a lot to play out here.
I have a question for you two. My co-driver says that he has a yellow checkered square under a green dot, and he thinks it's it's brake pad damage or brake pad failure. So let's see what YouTube has to say about that in 1 minute. We'll come back. And wow, that A. Lee, 2 cars behind him.
Lee there in camera 2's overtaken a blue flag and still has Josh Holmes for company in the Porsche there. Is that what you're discussing?
Yeah, sorry. I just thought they were fighting, but Austin as well. I'm surprised those blue flags, you know, everybody's got a lot more pace than me. I had to keep moving over, but these guys can actually hold their line for a long time before having to move.
Yeah, being a blue flag is a genuine art. It really is something that you can, if you put some effort into learning and you go and watch the way our best blue flags operate, you'll pick up a lot of time over the course of a full race, especially these 3-hour races, and obviously anything longer than that, our enduros, our 6, our 8s, our 12s, etc. The amount of time that you can pick up by being a good blue flag is astronomical, because if you're just giving way to 3 or 4 cars by basically stopping on a straight, you're doing it wrong for obvious reasons. Oh, Connor Hind in the pits. Here we go. They do have to do one more. Interesting. Okay, so that's probably why Connor Hind had so much extra pace and probably why he was so keen to get the move done, because he wanted to pull out a gap. He wanted to try and pull out any sort of gap he could. So that there is interesting. Okay, so now does Austin McNeil have to pit again? Does this Lambo have to pit again? Because I could have sworn that McLaren was going to go to the end based on when Johnson pitted. I thought it was around about the halfway mark. It wasn't far off. It was only sort of 4 or 5 minutes. I thought maybe Connor was going to be able to sort of stretch that out for another 4 or 5 minutes, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So it looks like it's just not quite going to be a case of anyone making it, other than, as we said, that Bentley, who we confident made it past the 90-minute mark, and one of the Fords being driven by Nathan Monks, and you know, so cleverly driven by Ben Curtis in that first stint. But Ben Curtis is a much nicer, more friendly driver than Nathan Monks. And Nathan Monks, we've already watched throughout this stint, has just been all over the back of Pudley and making a mess of his rear traction. So I don't know whether Toto's going to make it now. Chris Taylor, all right, so he's in the pit garage with Austin McNeil, and that Lambo's 100% fine to make it to the end of the race. They are now in the box seat with 14 seconds between them and Lee. And obviously the next car that we're sure doesn't have to pit being Holmes. That's a massive advantage for them now, having seen Hind dive into the pits. They know that they are well and truly on their way to a race victory here.
Yeah, it seems like duos is a favorite for many, many, many people. I've seen all the pros enjoy it. It's not as much commitment as an enduro. The strats matter much more than the sprints.
Yep. It's perfect. It is easily my favorite series, and it's the favorite series of so many of our drivers. So yeah, we're very happy to have it back. It's a tricky one for track selection, and it's a tricky one for car selection, because of this. Because you've got the Porsches that are so capable of doing a one-stop, which makes them incredibly OP for anything to do with dry tracks. But then as soon as it gets to wet like this, you can see how interesting this is to watch. And we're just on tenterhooks here, not being in the pit boxes, not knowing whether these cars are going to be able to stretch their legs. And we had no idea until we got to the 90-minute mark what cars were even close to capable. And then you saw that some Fords were capable and some Fords weren't. And, you know, some Porsches have gone a lot longer than other Porsches. It's such a perfect length, this 3-hour race. And I think the fact that you're hanging out with just the one teammate, I don't know, I'm a bit of an introvert, right? So I don't really like hanging out with too many people at once. Like, I hang out with the Kovacs boys all the time. There's like fucking 13 people in there and one team speak all the time. It's too many people. It's too much shit going on here. I like one person to talk to for like 3 hours. It's just perfect for me. And as I said, it's the favorite of a lot of drivers as well, so I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, you can really grow the bromance. Now, I just want to say, Benjamin Vintner, purple lap in Pro-Am. What is the time? I want to find that out, because he has somehow pulled out a faster time than Bubnow and Hamilton.
He has too. He has absolutely gone and snapped up the purple lap, Benny Vintner. There you go. It is an Aston Martin. So the Aston Martin is easily the quickest car here today. But that is a That's a stonker from Ben Vintner. A 202 flat is 2/10 quicker than... Hang on, let me go look. I'm pretty sure it is 2/10 quicker than Bubnow. Oh, no, 202.097. So they both have 202 flats. Bubnow, 202... Well, I say Bubnow. It was Hamilton who did the 202.097. And Vintner now with a 202.040. So it is incredibly close. But yes, a new purple lap. Is the condition improving, or is that I can't see. I haven't got my glasses on. Is that rain symbol in 30 minutes? Is that a minus or a plus? Not that we're going to make it there.
Yeah, it looks like a minus, but the track temperature has risen from 12 from the start of the race to 15, and now 16 Celsius on the actual track. Man, what a drive from everybody. Honestly, man, I really let Tim down, but other than that, Giga race from Brickley and Jensen. I still got 15 minutes left, but come on. I'm not that powerful. I can't curse everybody.
Yeah, I did wonder what Glenn's thoughts were when we announced the Endurance Series. We got all the Duo Series. Poor old Glenn sits behind the cameras all day long for these things. He doesn't get to race, and he hardly gets to go and pee, really. He just has to sit behind the cameras all day long with these bloody endurance events. We've just announced a whole year full of them. So I wonder how he's feeling.
Yeah, that was Yoda off track. No, it wasn't Yoda. It's Boxel still.
Oh, Boxel has stayed in the car. Interesting. Yeah, good call. Right, so yeah, he was just blue flagging himself around the outside of the hairpin there. But we saw him have a bit of a whoopsie through the final chicane earlier. He came into the pit lane. We thought he'd put Yoda back in the car, but no. I don't know whether Yoda's gone to bed or he's hanging out with the kids or whatever. No, it's 11 o'clock. The kids are in bed, Yoda. It is still Boxel in the car. Interesting.
Maybe he's just gone to have a nap or a snack. Now, Austin is still 14 or 13 seconds clear of Lee, but Lee still has Holmesy right on his butt. Holmesy hasn't given up. I wonder if Holmesy is going to try to make any moves, considering there's only 14 minutes left.
He won't leave anything on the table, I'll give you the tip. And if he does, I'll be very disappointed.
I don't leave anything on the table either.
Sideways from that Audi. Aaron Lee getting all sorts of crossed over on the exit of that bloody car. Look at the Audi punched out of there, though. Actually lost traction on the curb out of the last corner, but still pulled away from... Ben Fenton has gone into the 201s. What is going on in that Aston? Someone go and drug test Ben Vincent. He is absolutely cooking.
He's doping. He's got to be.
So what is going on there? He's 25 seconds behind Kafil Slade for the Pro-Am victory.
So he's not getting a sneaky slipstream. That's just pure pace.
And I don't know... What's Kafil doing? 2:03.1 last lap. So he's 1.3 seconds faster than Kafil Slade on that last lap. With 13 minutes to go, that's not even enough to reel in that gap. But Christ, he's not going to leave, and he's not going to leave him begging. He's going to give it a go. That's properly fast from Ben Vintner. Can someone confirm for me, Matt or Glenn, do we have fastest lap points in our Duo series? And is that going to be a nice little boon for them in the Aston Martin? Because that'd be interesting that they've pinched that off of the Torva Mesa 165. They were hanging on to that for basically 90% of this race after Hamilton picked up a few of them in his first stint.
Motec check. Motec check. But no, really, what a P10 and someone pulling out like two fastest laps within like 5 laps of each other at the end of the race as well, when the tires are probably more worn. I mean, lower fuel means you go faster, but still.
Well, Matt's sort of suggesting that the track's drying up. Oh, no, he's deleted it. Ha! He did too. Matt Diabol's Pow has retracted his message suggesting that the track is drying up. So I was going to disagree with him. But no, he's gone and disagreed with himself. No, it's definitely not drying up. It is still very wet out there. And even though the temperature of the track is increasing a little bit, I don't think that'll have too much to do with the increased pace that Ben Vinton is showing, because no one else is getting any quicker. There are still very quick times coming out. In fact, Brickley's just done his personal best lap of a 2:03.8, so he's going along very nicely as well. But there's not a lot of extra pace being found out there across the board. There's still plenty of white laps in terms of personal best and stuff. So it's not getting any quicker. That is just Vintner absolutely on it here for the last 15 minutes or so.
He just decided to lock in. Now, Toto, actually, Nathan Monks has passed Chalmers and is actually within about 1 second of Brickley. So Brickley and Jensen might be losing their coveted P11.
And we've also seen Bolt pit. We were talking before about Bolt and whether or not he was going to pit. I can't see him anymore. I don't know who Bolt is.
Well, Bolt was Vintner. It's Vintner, I'm pretty sure.
Is it? Right. That makes a lot more sense then. Right. So they've put Vintner in the car.
They put firecrackers in the car. They lit a candle under his seat. Go fast, go fast.
That's exactly why they're going quick too, though, is they've got low fuel. So they put Ben Vintner on fresh tyres and a low tank of fuel. And he's just able to go hammer and tong for these last 15 minutes. And as I said, I don't see him doing any damage because he's too far back from Kafil Slayer, but he'll probably pick up the purple lap and hang on to P10 here. Pickford in the pits. Okay, so this is interesting. How far back does he drop? He's 5 seconds. Kafil Slayer's going to get him in the pits. And then Vintner, it depends on what they do, right? If Pickford only does a splash dash here, then he can still come in. And there's the Audi. I knew they had to pit again. There you go. So that goes Jolms up into P2. Nice work, Joshy. He'll be happy with that in the KA Motorsport / Pixel Races entry. Up into P2 they go. Austin McNeil obviously still in the lead, well and truly clear of Josh Holmes. So I don't see Jolms doing a sneaky P1 chase here with 10 minutes to go, but he'll be happy with P2. Lee here probably best doing a splash dash to try and hold on to as many as possible. Bub now up into P3. Now Lee probably drops back to around about P7 here. Michael Babb is a minute back. So the top 6 have really sort of cleared themselves from that 7th position. So Lee can only drop as far back as 6th here, depending on how quickly Connor Hine can gap the catch she has. So Lee comes out in P6. And then, as I said, I was looking for the Porsche of Pickford. He's back out on track now and is currently P9. But he's got Vintner. Where's P9? Get on Vintner right now, because Vintner is right underneath Pickford as they've come out of the pit lane. So that battle for P9 and Vintner, especially with fresh tyres and no fuel in the car. Pickford obviously not allowed to do a tyre change there in the hope of holding onto as many positions as possible. So this Aston is going to have a significant pace advantage over the Porsche here. So you would think that this is basically an inevitability as they come up into the Schumacher S's here. He's all over the back of Pickford here, whose tyre pressures and temperatures would have dropped as he went through the pit lane. He's going to be really squirrely here for the first sort of lap or so, whereas Vintner, as we've already discussed, is absolutely on fire here. So I think Vintner probably picks up P9 unless Pickford can pull off the defences of all defences here. This would be an absolute wall job here for the last 8 minutes if he can hang on. Look at the run the Aston's got. He's got so much extra speed that he nearly punted the shit out of him going through the little kink there. Goodness gracious, he's managed to keep it out of the back of him, but he had so much overspeed that it looked like he was going to hit him. And
going around the outside?
No, Pickford defending the inside beautifully, but now he's just got the car in all the right places there, Pickers. Beautifully driven. And the Porsche out of the last corner should be strong enough to get him down into turn 1. And again, very early, picking up a defensive line now, Pickers, knowing that he's defending for his life. He's really driving defenders, but look at the extra grip on the Aston Martin on those fresh tyres. He has gone very late. Ooh, did he go off track there to gain an advantage? That's an interesting one. I wouldn't mind having a little look at that, because he did brake very late. He does have a lot of extra grip on those fresh tyres, and he did pull it up, but did he go off track? That's a very close one.
Yeah, I just want to mention Pickford is definitely puckered right now, because how many times Vintner was looking for a shot, and that's definitely a new line for Vintner, going wide and then defending the inside so that Pickford just couldn't bring it back.
Well, provisionally for now, as I said, I'm sure the stewards are having a look at it. They didn't look at anything too egregious. Certainly didn't dive or make a bad move or make any contact or anything like that. But did he go off track to gain an advantage. It did look very tight. But anyway, he's up in a P9 now. And even if they do that, honestly, the only penny he'll get for that is a very, very short 5-second penalty. And I'm sure he'll pull that away. He's already 3 seconds up the road from Pickford. So even if he does get a 5-second penalty for that slight off track, like I said, it looked very close. Maybe he didn't even go off track. But if he did, I'm sure he'll pull up that 5 seconds very comfortably. And they will be very happy to pick up P9 tonight and the purple lap. Here you go. Here's your replay. And we'll probably have to pause it. Oh, that's well off track. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, he's definitely off the white line.
So, yeah, that's definitely going off track to gain position, which is against the rules. But, yeah, as I said, I can't imagine any more than a 5-second penalty for that one, which, you know, he'll very comfortably pick that up again anyway. So, nice work to them.
No! Brickley, 107. Uh-oh. We're going to have a look at that.
Oh.
He's still there. He's still out off track.
Yes, he is too. Yes, the yellow flag you can see on screen. There he is. Brickley, is he bogged? What's going on here? Hardware failure. No! Not with 5 minutes to go. Come on.
What a giga drive, giga strat, everything.
He's pulled it right off the road. He can't get anything going. The throttle's stuck. The steering wheel's not moving. What is that? No. Boo!
That is an absolute heartbreak.
That's it. I quit. Nah, I don't like that.
No. We gotta stick it through. We gotta stick it through.
I'm going to bed.
Don't you dare go to bed.
What a load of shit.
I'll give you a wedgie.
Ah, God damn it. And return to garage. With 4 minutes to go, that's an absolute nightmare. That's as sad as it gets. We've seen plenty of cars have hardware failure. We've seen plenty of cars RTG across our time here at Octane Online Racing, but that is one of the worst I've seen. That sucks so much, donkey. God damn. So, yeah, they're going to fall, so far back now. I don't know how far back. I don't know whether they're going to try and get it back on track. I don't know whether they're going to, put Jensen back in the car and get him going again, but you can... So he's playing with the throttle here. You can, behind the replay, behind the thing, you can see the telemetry there. He's got the brakes fully stamped. I don't know whether it's stuck in second. I don't know what the hell the go is there. But, yeah, obviously the KAM boys are in chat saying that it is hardware failure. So they know that it's a hardware failure of some description, but that for me is the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Just get Jensen out there, because you might not be P11, but you're still P1 in AM class if you can get the car back out there and get driving again.
Yeah,
Never
absolutely.
give up.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what I'm saying. Because when you RTG, there's a massive penalty. You get basically a 3-minute stop in the pits. So that you're forced to sit in the pits. It doesn't let you out of the pits for I think it's like 2.5 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes. So it is really going to suck because they will get back out on track. I'm looking at these gaps. It's 142 seconds from P20 to 21, and then another. That's okay. I don't actually think that's the case. The timing board being a little bit silly there. Who's the first AM class? Winton. Winton is P22, 29 seconds behind Cook, who's 24 seconds behind Gray. So there's about 55 seconds currently between Brickley and AM class P2. And yeah, I just think they'll be stuck in the pits for too long. I think even if they get back out on track, which I hope they do, it would be heroic, and I'd love to see them cross the line. But I think that is going to cost them AM class P1. And as you said, it certainly cost them what has been a really super performance today. And that's just sad. God damn.
Now, I'm not sure if my vote counts because I was always only here for about 60% of the race, but my personal driver of the day or team of the day has to be Brickley and Jensen.
Oh yeah, they still get my vote for sure. Yeah, you can't wipe off the entire race worth of good work just for that last little thing with fucking 5 minutes to go. God damn, how does that happen? This is not
Fantastic.
A replay. I know the replay thing I was up down the bottom there, but this isn't a replay. We were watching this heroic Bentley get back out on track. And it looks like it is still being driven by Brickley too, by the way. So I know that the timing board hasn't updated yet, but the app that I'm watching for the timing board generally updates very quickly. And I think that is... Oh, no. Is it still? It looks like we're still having problems. It looks like we're still having problems. They got it back out there. They gave it a crack. And now Winton in the 72 AM class car is currently in the lead of the AM class, and it just hasn't worked out for these guys. No. That's so sad. I'm laughing because I'm in pain.
It's called coping. It's called coping mechanisms, Glenn.
Speaking of pain, I would have been in a whole heap of friggin' pain there if Jones looped it at the exit of turn 3, which he came very close to doing. Oh, Christ, I would have thrown my keyboard at the window if that happened, because we had Jones spinning and bloody Brickley failing and Page's rice cooking wife. It's all bloody going wrong for a lot of people tonight. Did you hear that story? Paige came into the chat before. He said that the only reason they disconnected is because his missus disconnected the power while she was cooking rice.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So there wasn't anything to do with the internet. It wasn't anything to do with hardware failures. Just Page's missus come in and said, no, I'm cooking rice.
And he didn't even get any of the rice, too. That's another thing. He didn't even get to eat it.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure if YouTube can hear, but we have just given Glenn a stroke. He is dying of laughter.
So look, with the Hobbs penalty, it was bad. And then Page's rice cooker moment is worse. And then it's just gone all up the shit now with the AM class leaders departing us. That's been really disappointing in the last couple of minutes. But we are now rounding into the red zone. We've got 4 seconds to go on the timer. I don't know where the leader is. In fact, the leader's at the last corner now, so this is the last lap, ladies and gentlemen. Austin McNeil is now crossing the line as the winner of this race. Congratulations to him in the Lambo. A very super strong performance from himself and Ben Hignett. And even after getting punted a few times, they've had a lot of work to do to get that win, but they have had a really strong performance, defended from all areas, and RP1 here tonight at Nurburgring. Josh Holmes and Tim Purcell with a really strong performance as well in the Porsche, which looks so strong in this series based on its fuel-saving capabilities. They didn't start anywhere near the top 3, Holmes and Purcell, but they do finish P2. And a very nice result for them. Bubnow and Hamilton, after starting on pole, went backwards very quickly in that first lap, but very strong first stint from Hamilton. Managed to put them back in the box seat. And then they obviously had to pit twice, which has sort of thrown them back. But to pit twice and still finish P3, really strong from Bubnow and Hamilton. Cook and... crap, who's in that other Porsche? Where's my entry list? Someone help me out here. Cookie's
Taylor, isn't it?
Taylor, thank you very much. Thank you. Chris Crashes ACC. Chris Taylor's in the other seat of that Porsche. Nice work from you, John. Letting me know that one. And Connor Hind and Luke Johnson are the top 5. After a really strong stint from Connor Hind and a couple of little moves there, which brought us some content, if nothing else, did Connor Hind. And they're going to finish P5. The Rockets Evolved entry with A-Lee and Stephen Tyers P6. And we're watching Michael Babb skate it through the final chicane and into the last corner in the bin chicken entry with a lunch bag. Chris Murphy, P7. Phil Slade in the KFC Audi with Saxon Hayes is going to come across the line in P8. And then everyone else having crossed the line are locked into this position of P9 with Ben Ventiner and Bolte. That's the fastest lap for those guys as well. So a nice little points haul, assuming we get a point for the purple lap. I'm still not quite clear on that.
If you don't get points, you get bragging rights. That's it.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. You take those. A 2:01.842 was your fastest lap tonight from Ben Ventiner. And Pickford, and I got this one wrong before, Pickford and Johnson it would be. Pickford and Johnson. Actually, a mega first stint from Johnson had them in P1 overall at one point. And Pickford defending nicely in that last stint, but just not quite having the pace of a couple of the guys in front. They are the top 10 here for round 2 at the Nurburgring GP circuit.
Style points.
Where's the next one? Glenn, I'm going to be back for the next Duo Series race. You can't keep me out of this. Red Bull Ring, absolutely. What a track. We don't do enough racing at Red Bull, and it's not in this sprint series either. So I'm really glad we're going there in probably, 3-4 weeks' time for whatever the next Duo Series with. 3 weeks' time it's going to be. Can't wait for that. The Red Bull Ring is such a good track, and it's not underrated. Everyone loves it. I don't know anyone who doesn't like the Red Bull Ring, so we're all going to be very keen for that one in 3 weeks' time. But the next one is, what are we doing next? The Sprint Series next week heads off to Barcelona. So that's where we'll be going for that one. As we said before, the LMU Series is cooking on a Friday night, but we're looking to move that to something that's a bit easier for people to attend, because Friday night's mostly family night, isn't it? And we've got some AMS2 stuff happening as well. That's on your Sunday evening. So it's just all popping off in Octane Online Racing. Honestly, early start to this year. We've got off the tracks nice and early with the Bathurst 12 hour. Let's recap the top 3 from each division one more time. McNeil and Hignett, Pro Class winners by 12 seconds from Holmes and Purcell in P2 and Bubnow and Hamilton in P3. Pro-Am was won tonight by Kafil Slade and Saxon Hayes in the KFC Audi. Nice work. Ventana and Bolt with the fastest lap of P2. And Chalmers and Viney, nice work getting back in front of Monks and Curtis there at the end. That must have been a nice little battle. We might have missed that one. So Chalmers and Viney, P3 in Pro-Am. And then over in the AM class, the saddest story. Goodness gracious. I can't look at this. You can see down the bottom there, Booker and Dale. That's pretty sad too, how they've duplicated their entry. Didn't even get to start the race tonight. That's a bit sad. Brickley and Jensen, P4 in AM class. We're going to give our hats off to them as driver of the day, because what a performance it was until that drama in the last 5 minutes. But your winners tonight of the AM class, Winton and Bowden in the Ferrari, 57 seconds clear of the next participants, Gob and Gormley. So a really strong performance from Winton and Bowden. Gobby and Gormley in the commentary box tonight, best on ground, and P2 in AM class, and Braid and Zavaka, your P3 for AM class. And it looks like now that we've gone into free practice 2, we can get the sun shining. It's a dry track optimum, in fact. So go out there and get the pass and slap back as we could...
Nope, I'm not touching this track. I hate this GP. I'm so glad the tourist version of the Nordschleife does not have this.
I much prefer the Nordschleife to this track, but it's not horrible. I don't mind the Nurburgring. It's not up there in my top 5. Certainly no Paul Ricard, which I can't wait to get to. Not next week.
You can't miss. After. You cannot miss this one. Come on.
Oh boy.
I wish it wasn't wet.
Gobby's rejoined us as well.
Here.
So John Gormley and Tim Gobe joined me in the commentary box this evening. Thank you very much, boys, for coming up here and keeping me company.
Glad to be here. I'm just happy to help, and hopefully I'll be commentating for Sundays on the AMs. I'm going to put my hand in there because I got plenty of time on Sunday.
Thank you to Glenn Germain, of course, behind the cameras all evening long and feeding us all the best stuff from the pit lane, and to Matt Bowell, our race director, as well as all the stewards behind the scenes. My name is Jamie Conboy. This has been round 2 of the Duo Series. We'll see you middle of next week-ish for the Sprint Series. Have a very lovely Sunday.
Bye-bye.